All right, then. Well, everyone, welcome to the first ever episode of the Dead by Discussions podcast. We've had this idea for quite a while, probably maybe 1 week or two, but here we are, still trying to go for it. Uh, for this podcast, so we kind of want to make something clear real quick before we just go on any further. Is with this podcast, we have an entire discussion on a lot of topics related to Dead by Daylight. However, for us, we don't want it to seem like there is a clear, uh, I guess a clear statement where we're going with. So in other words, we don't want it to make it seem like there's a right or a wrong answer here. It's just all of us giving out our own opinions into whatever topic we're discussing for the week. And as well for just us, we all know that, and we just want you, the viewers, to also know that. So that's just something that we wanted to make clear first of all when we're going into this podcast. But in terms of the actual people taking over this podcast, why don't we just start on from the left and head towards the right? If we want to introduce ourselves real quick.
Hello. Excuse my voice, everybody. It is bad, I understand, but I am Harry Mozzarella, or as known as by my friends, Maz.
Well, Ash isn't here right now,
I'm
but
here.
oh, Ash is here. Okay.
Well,
She's
just in
back.
time.
Hey.
Woo.
Am I
Ashley is
next?
here.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, hi, I'm Ashy. Uh,
Yeah, go by
Oh
Ashy.
God. Okay.
I'm dying.
Well,
Ashley's killing me. I love
um,
Ashley. I miss Ashley.
okay. Hello, I'm Rain.
Hello, I'm insane.
And I'm Matt. We all played Dead by Daylight together.
Yeah.
yeah.
Pog
Fuck.
Swifties.
Poggers.
Cute Swifties.
Okay.
That's great. Um, so for this week's episode, I think a lot of us have it in our titles already, and probably as well for whatever any one of us are going to be putting on the YouTube channels of our personal ones. But this week we're actually going to be discussing chapter 19, which is the All Kill chapter, which is coming out in 2 days from now. So on Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday, newest chapter will be releasing what's a new killer, a new survivor, and some changes that may or may not be welcomed from the community. So for all of us, I think a lot of us are kind of hyped for this specific chapter, and when we look into this chapter too, it's very different from a lot of the chapters that have come out recently, ever since not only from since we've played it, but as well since the start of Dead by Daylight. And what I mean by that is it genuinely gives off a good feeling about it feels more humanoid kind of chapter, I would say. So when we look into the killer, it's just basically just a human killer that for better or for worse, a lot of us may or may not like that, but I think I just want to discuss this real quick about the newest killer, new survivor, and then just overall what this chapter really wants to bring for us. So first off, we have a K-pop based chapter, which I just want to get everyone's opinions real quick about whether or not that's very much welcome from each of us or exactly how we feel about that. So if we want to just go back in order again, or whoever wants to start us off with, we can just go with that.
Mobs or
I guess I'll lead it off after Zane. Honestly, the K-pop theme it's interesting and it's unique in its own way. So honestly, I kind of like it a little bit because the music as well as just I like the music too. Like you've heard the pregame lobby music, right?
oh yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, I have the music off, but I could hear it in some other streams and other videos that I watch. But I could also hear it in my game a little bit too. But I'm like, I kind of like it. So just it's different. It's just completely different, and I like different. I like seeing new things come into this game because I really love this game and I want the best for it. So seeing them do something like this is just kind of intriguing. Whoever wants to go next.
yeah,
Oh,
anyone go.
whoever. Or, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree with Maz, honestly. I really like the chase music. Sometimes it feels like they haven't really, the chase music kind of feels like, I don't know. I feel like the Doctor rework gets a bad rep, but like, I, I don't know. I feel like the chase music Doctor is a lot, more just derpy sounding versus, but this actually like sounds really cool. And I like the fact that there's a visual for like how many knives
Mhm.
you throw on the screen. Like the killer's really cool looking. There's a lot of color, and yeah, I like the vibe.
It's a good vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely like it a lot.
And then it's a it's I mean, it's a good vibe, and we're saying that yet he's a killer.
True. I mean, I don't disagree with you guys. I like the fact that it's K-pop um Killer and Survivor. I think the overall like color to it is also really good because when you think about DVD, it's a very strong lack of color. So I think
Mhm.
it's kind of interesting that they put a lot of more like bold colors in for the Killer and the Survivor, you know, with the pink and the bright yellow
Yeah.
little jacket thing that the killer has. I was like, well, that's
Mhm.
an interesting color to
I
choose
like
for
how
a
the knife
game,
color
but
too.
yeah, the knife color is good too. The bat purple is a very great shade of purple. Um, but overall, I think it's cool. I don't know. Sometimes I think about like why they decided to make it K-pop, because like I
Hmm.
feel like personally, it literally could have been anything. And it being like its own original thing is like really cool. But I kind of wanted to understand about like why they decided to make it like a K-pop kind of killer instead of like something different, you know? But I guess
Yeah.
that's all part of like development too, is like, well, if we want to make a killer based off of like someone in the music industry or Survivor or whatever, like what kind of industry would they be in, you know, what kind of genre of music would be good to represent like this person or whatever. um but I don't know, I feel like personally it would have been more interesting if they would have did like some sort of uh various legends, I guess, or like mythological creatures. Is that a word, mythological? uh
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a word.
mythological creatures, because there's a lot of
Mythology.
interesting ones, especially in the Asian culture. So I don't know, sometimes I just think about like why they decided to do K-pop, you know?
I would say
Hmm.
maybe I would say maybe mythology type characters, maybe. Because I
Yeah,
mean, I'm saying that in the head, and it kind of sounds weird in my head. Yeah, so I agree. But yeah, mythology would be cool. Everyone thought when the twins were coming out, they see the hand coming in the trailer, they were thinking like Wendigo, and that's something to do with mythology too. But I think also when it comes to mythology as well, and like killers, the Oni's kind of mythical too as well,
yeah,
because that's Japanese folklore, Japanese mythology as well.
that's
So.
true.
Yeah.
And the same thing, I
Yeah.
think the spirit could also jump into that too, but she's kind of like her own entity. She's kind of
Well,
like, sh- sh-
well,
but she can't really
see,
fall in that category either, I guess.
I would actually kind of want to think that it actually might be going to that because it does feel like the spirit is more based off of the grudge, where
Hmm.
obviously an angry spirit who comes back still to haunt you and all that. Like that's still a thing and going into that specific culture. So I would like to believe that the spirit does actually fall into that kind of more
I
like
would also, I
mythological
also
area.
think, agree. I would also think like, didn't she in her lore? It said like she was an angry spirit trying to get revenge on her father too. So
Hmm.
I think I can see that a lot too, because I think I remember reading her lore and it saying that. Because I think her father was an abusive person, so she came back and killed him after she died because
Yeah.
he was the cause
Yeah.
of her mother and her death. I think.
Yeah. In terms of actually going back into the specific chapter, like I do want to go touch on more of like what Rain said about why specifically this was a K-pop chapter
Hmm.
versus what anything else that could have been. Like there could have been multiple things differently. And I think a lot of people when this came up to be a K-pop chapter, and again when we were looking into the teasers and all that, a lot of people were speculating that this was kind of behavior's answer towards KDA, which is the whole League of Legends K-pop sensation thing that's been going on for a few years now, and a lot of people kind of believe that this might be their answer to it. But again, that's just more or less up for speculation, and more or less we want to know obviously from the developers themselves about the thought process and why this became the thing. But uh, genuinely for me though, I definitely like this K-pop scene based chapter because there's definitely a lot of that I can love more than. And don't get me wrong, I'm for me there's a lot of things that I don't like about uh, K-pop stands. I would say where some of them are more or less more aggressive versus more of a casual fan. But for having a K-pop based chapter, I think it's very welcoming to have not only, I guess, a community specifically to be more feeling like they can be welcomed into this, but it generally feels like there's not. I guess it's just like they enjoy exactly what K-pop is rather than just feeling like the fans will always ruin it if that makes any sense. So
Mm.
we're just going into an area where it feels like we can actually have people feel welcome rather than feel like attacked as they usually are.
Right.
Yeah.
I live
Yeah,
for the aesthetic. I think it looks amazing.
same. Everything about it just looks great.
The pastels and
I love the background.
Especially
Yep.
after like the twins being so bland of a release, you know?
I
Yeah.
kind of like the
Like,
twins too, though. Like they have their own unique aesthetic as well.
yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
That's
But
It's
true.
just
I
nobody likes that play style, unfortunately, too.
I I feel like yeah, there was a lot of things that was kind of wrong with the twins when they first got released because there was no teasers. They're kind of they're just bland, you know, like there's not much to it. Like
I
right
like
or
it
there,
though.
but
Like I like they thought of the idea of having like two
Mm.
different kind of killers in the same killer. Like I don't know if that
Oh
makes
yeah,
any
the
sense.
I
concept. Yeah,
love
the concept was
Yeah,
yeah,
cool.
I think
Yeah,
that's awesome to like think of ideas like that at least.
I
yeah,
kind of wish that I don't know. I kind of wish that this chapter would have been the one with the cinematic, except for the twins, because I just feel like there's a lot more
True. I
that they
really wish
could
there was.
do with this certain chapter in terms of cinematic, especially relating to the backstories and stuff of the characters. Um,
hmm
but like, and I feel like design wise too, it would really pop. Like, it really get people interested. Um, but unfortunately, they chose not to do that. Um, so
yeah.
that
That was
kind
one
of
of those
yeah,
sucks.
things where like they did the previous one and didn't have the idea for the next killer yet, and then the next killer came to them and they didn't have the resources to put into that anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I don't know. I actually did like how they did the whole teasers this time around with Twitter. Like, it wasn't like the usual, we have a video, that's it, and then we
Yeah.
speculate. Like, they really went a little bit more of a different route this time around, where they just changed their entire Twitter thing specifically, like their banner, like their profile, their name of it
Yeah.
too, is everything differently. And then obviously we did get the videos that again more speculation, but I don't know. I did like how they chose a very different route this time around instead of just a basic video. Here you go, speculate for another 2 weeks till we release our PTV, you know? Like I kind of rather
Yeah.
like that more than just what they usually do.
I
Yeah.
mean, I agree. And I feel like that idea really came from the whole Dwelf thing on Twitter for Christmas. Because I remember specifically they were like sending out like a poll or something, and it was like, would you be interested in seeing more like characters like Dwelf on our Twitter? And everyone's like, yeah, we love Dwelf.
We
So
love it when we hear his jingle bells and we're chasing him.
yeah,
True.
Oh,
basically.
chasing the dwarf.
You're literally the killer, and you dwarf's hiding from you. He starts walking. Oh, there you
Have you guys ever noticed that the people wearing the Dwelf cosmetics are usually the better players than just a regular Dwight?
Yeah, it's true.
are.
They're
True.
just built differently, honestly.
Right.
They
It's a
have more
12th diff.
confidence.
Hair.
12th diff.
Dwelf
Yeah.
diff.
They're also less toxic sometimes too. The less
I don't know
toxic.
about less
Those
toxic.
are the ones that would like
So
save
far,
Even
you.
teabagging.
like so far, every dwarf I've faced is a killer. Like they don't teabag, and I'm like, I respect
Those dwarfs be
Yeah.
like,
Thank you.
honey, you getting the aggro. Let me take that aggro with me real quick.
you.
When again, we're going back into this chapter right now where we have very unique survivor and killer, and going into survivor actually real quick. As per usual, each chapter brings three unique perks that make each survivor bring something new to the table a lot of times too. So when we go into this, we actually have the very first three perks that we have right here. So first perk would be fast track, which again, I think personally for me, I don't I never really saw the value of it to begin with, but obviously as time went on, when things were testing out with BTB left and right,
Mhm.
it kind of felt like there could be some value to it, but ultimately I feel like it's a little bit underwhelming. So for those at home who don't know much about the perk, whenever someone is hooked, for Survivor, you get a total of 1 to 2 to 3 tokens, depending on the tier of it, and you consume all of it on a generator, but it'll give you a percentage. So you
After a
get three
bit.
tokens for one Survivor. When you use skill check, that's 3% right off the bat on that generator. So yeah, that's pretty much what the perk really does, honestly. So not much to it than that.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the perk because they remember that one game we were playing against that nurse, and I got it was only level 2 for me, so I was only getting 2 tokens at a time for each hook. I got up to 14. I had a generator at like 30% almost, and they hit a great skill check with all 14 when you got hooked, and it gave me 2
Hmm.
more. So I got 16 total tokens before I hit the great, and it brought the generator all the way up to like 50%, if not 60. So towards the end, maybe I think I never really totally had the idea of like perks that are going to alter gen speed with how gen speed already is right now. So I like the perk,
Yeah,
but with the fact that gens are kind of too fast right now, I just kind of hurts the killer a little bit, kind of.
yeah, that's kind of just how I see it too. Where I think it could be good if you're saving up a lot of it too, but I again
I
that's
look
how
at
it
it as also a
is.
wasted perk slot because it's only good if you have like a ton of tokens, which isn't going to be easy to do.
Yeah, it's also not good that you're having to have your survivor friends get hooked for it to be
Yeah.
Yeah,
worth it
exactly.
too. So
Yeah, I think that's my biggest concern is like you're the killer is rewarded by hooks with points, but like you're rewarding the survivor with stacks. I don't know. It's kind of it's a little janky. Yeah, I don't think I'll be running the perk, but like it.
You're
I
gonna see
mean,
me running past
it's.
Matt
I
saying,
mean, you could
Matt,
do like fast track with. You could do like a gen build like fast track with what what's that? Dwight prove thyself like.
ooh, you could
mhm.
also do maybe what's that other perk? This is not happening to increase the size of the great skill check too.
Yeah, or like resilience. Yeah, there's like a lot of options, I guess, if you just want to do gens. But I think any gen perk or skill check perk is like just kind of underwhelming in my view. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know. I think well, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest, because I feel like that's at the same time kind of a way to like, I don't know. I want to say indirectly but directly counter like people that are getting tunneled. You know what I mean? Because like they're gonna be on the hook like consistently after getting tunneled. So if
Mhm.
you have that perk and you're not the one being tunneled, then those gens gonna go flying, especially if you have that gin build set up with it as well, you know.
yeah,
hmm,
I get what they were trying to do, but I don't like personally I'm not too big of a fan, and I don't think I'm gonna be the one running it either. I feel like it could be reworked a little bit. How, I'm not exactly sure, because like you all already mentioned, like gen speed already go flying, but
yeah,
that's only with
Chin
like,
Cooper.
yeah, that's but that's like only with killers who don't run like gen reduction perks.
Gen defense.
Yeah, it's like gen defense perks, because like there's a lot of them in the game. Like you simply just running like corrupt, ruin, and like pop all together would be kind of, that would make that perk kind of useless. I mean, yeah, you're getting progress, but once you get off that gen, that ruin's gonna take effect. If the ruin's popped and you got a hook, right? Yeah, they get stacks for the hook you got, but that gen's gonna
yeah,
regress like a whole like bar down than what it was originally at. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Hmm.
I
I
think I
feel
see
like,
it as
yeah.
like a yeah, like a toolbox. You'll use it like situationally.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I feel like the best perk to put with fast track would also be like Rain was going on gen defense. You would have to. I would say you'd maybe nearly, not maybe always, but want to bring that Cheryl perk to where you hit the active button and block it, especially if you hit a great skill check and it
Oh,
gets up to like 80 or 90%. You're like, yeah, E move.
oh yeah,
Oh,
repressed
no,
alliance.
no
What you're
pop.
talking
Yeah,
about.
repressed alliance. Yeah, but I just feel like that's two wasted perk slots for Survivor, and it would.
Yeah.
It's just. It's going to be
Well,
a difficult perk to use, but also it's a selfish perk to use at some points if you look at it from some angles.
I feel
yeah,
like maybe they're just not coming up with enough good ideas. Because, I mean, even with Repressed Alliance, like, it's so situational. Like, yeah, you can have a Gen 99 and, like, defend the killer from doing anything with it. But, like, in lower elos of the game, you're gonna have it. You're gonna be like, oh, the killer's coming here. Cool, let me block the gen. Uh-oh, the killer has ruin. Now what? You know what I mean? That gen's regressing no matter what. It doesn't matter
Yep,
if
it's
the
true.
killer pushes you off of it, it's going to regress regardless. You have to find the totem. You know what I mean? So at that point, you're literally just wasting time. That killer could have chased you off of that gen, committed a chase with you, and your teammate could have finished the gen. But because of the fact that you used Repressed Alliance, now you can't do anything.
Yeah, of course. But then, of course, for Past Alliance, like in that situation, you'd have to know if ruin's up or not, which you will. So that would be a
Yeah.
situational thing too, of course.
But that's what I think I'm trying to say is like I think this perk would definitely be something that's very situational. Um, but at the same time, I feel like it's not going to be run because of the fact that it's situational, and there's too many situations in a game of DBD for you to like know what your loadout's going to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that makes more sense. Yeah, definitely. And
Especially since you don't know what killer you're going against too.
yeah, like you have an entire full pool of like 20 plus killers that you can go against right now, and then plus we're adding the new one right now, and future killers. Like like for you specifically, if you feel like you know what you're going to be going against, more than likely you're not going to know at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I definitely don't like fast track altogether. But for me, if we're looking at each perk specifically, I say it's a second best out of Yoon's kit set, in my opinion, just because well, obviously we'll get into discussion later on what's the other two perks of why I believe in that, but for me, like it does feel selfish, especially because for me, I don't know why it just really reminds me of Soul Survivor from Lori's perks, where the only value you get out of it is unless all of your teammates are dead. Like that's extremely selfish to begin with, first of all,
Yeah.
but and now it's like
And what are
this
the
one's like,
odds you're
okay,
gonna
we'll
use
just
it
get
too?
hooked.
And what are the odds you're gonna use it too when everyone's dead because you're gonna be looking for hatch, not to do a generator?
Yeah, unless you're that one crazy mad lad that's trying to go for that left behind
I think
achievement.
maybe in
Yeah.
the old DBD when you couldn't close hatch and that killer maybe finds it in camps, and maybe that's a good time when it'd be a good situation to use fast track. But since they can just close the hatch and instantly start in the game, and you have to go for an exit gate, it's just kind of hard to use that perk
Yeah.
if everyone's dead.
But yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that. What about you, Ashley? What's your kind of take on this?
It could be useful if you paired it with other like gen repairing perks.
That's fair.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So when we're moving away from this specific perk, we're going into the next one, which I'd say probably a lot of us, and as well probably a lot of the community, believes is probably one of the better perks out of UN set, which would be Smash Hit, which was recently buffed as well right before it's about to hit live. So this is another exhaustion perk that's been introduced, and the way it works is that once you stun a killer, you will get a 150% bonus normal speed running for a total of 4 seconds.
Oh,
To
it's
give that
four
into
now.
perspective, yeah, it's
They
four now.
buffed it, yeah.
Yeah, just
That's
very
the buff.
recently.
Okay.
Yeah. So to give people more perspective right now for those in the community, currently right now, what we look at is sprint burst is probably considered right now, one of the top tier exhaustion perks, if not the exhaustion perk to be running right now, and it's a 150% as well. It's a 3 second though, same cooldown though. So currently for now, Smash Hit has the longest like speed per se for like how long it'll go. And
Yeah.
for us, and again for me personally, I believe this will be a metagame changing perk to where it could either rival Sprint Burst right now, if not over top Sprint Burst currently the moment it hits live. And that's just me just kind of stating that out right now. So yeah.
No,
Um,
I'm very excited with that. Yeah.
I'm excited for it too because there's those like bubbas or hillbillies that'll run Spirit Fury Enduring, and then if you're going to eat a pallet and break it, the moment it hits you, I'm gonna be like, bye.
Yeah, it
I
gives you
have
a
been.
ton
I
of
think
time, yeah, and space.
Smash Hits is going to be, in my opinion, really good with Windows as well. Like you already see all the palettes, even though you're about to use one, you're already pre-gaming where you're going to go next. So
Yeah.
Smash Hits going to get you to that next destination, even though they have what 0.5 seconds of stun from enduring, and then boom, it's instantly broken because of Spirit Fairly. Yeah, but I'm already. And now that it's 4 seconds, that's even better. So
Something funny, use the pallet and then run into a building, and by the time they get there, you're hiding in a corner somewhere and they don't know where you're at.
exactly.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like
But just imagine if you're running the Jane perk with the generator Jane perk too, and someone completes a gen right when you smash.
Poised.
Yeah,
Oh
poise right
yeah.
my
when you
god.
smash hit him. You smash hit him, and then all of a sudden someone finishes a gen right when you do that. All of a sudden the killer just loses you as
I
well.
didn't even think
You
of
could
that.
I
do
That's
feel like
actually
that,
great.
one of
like
the
in
best.
game,
Wait, go ahead, Ash.
like when there's only one gen left and like there's only two survivors left, if you did that at the end game, like this killer's not going to be able to find you.
And
That's
then
true.
imagine like you're injured too. Say he hits you, even though it's through the pallet. You just have adrenaline, sprint burst with smash it, sprint burst with adrenaline, but your scratch marks are gone and you're fully healed. And now the killer's just like, where'd he go?
I feel like one of the strongest like builds with Smash Hit would definitely be Smash Hit, a Lucky Break, Quick and Quiet, and Dance with Me. Because when you're getting chased, I feel like you usually generally look for other places to go, other loops, other buildings to like lose LOS. And of course, this is like very dependent with certain killers. But I'm just kind of imagining like Smash Hit and then you vaulting some sort of area to get that dance with me off so your scratch marks are still gone and then just like
Yeah.
like or even if not that, like Ash said, turning the corner and then jumping into a locker way quick and quiet, like the killer is not going to know anywhere like that you went. And
Oh,
paired up
yeah.
with Lucky Break, you're not going to leave behind blood pools either, so you're like technically invisible to the killer. um but talking more of like a competitive, I want to say like competitive standpoint, because Zane, you said that Sprint Burst was like top tier right now. Um,
Mhm.
I can sort of agree that Smash Hit will be in some sort of competition with Sprint Burst. However, the only reason that I don't see it beating Sprint Burst is because I don't think it's as consistent as Sprint Burst can be. Because killers can definitely get survivors to throw pallets down early. Sometimes you need to throw pallets down early against certain killers. If, for example, maybe like Doctor. Um, uh, and like I feel like also like I said with baiting, killers can bait pallets on you to for you to throw it down too. So there are times that Smash Hit isn't going to be like as effective as people think, in my opinion. But I can definitely see it being one of the perks that are definitely at least like that top three kind of exhaustion. uh what am I trying to say, that top three, it's going to be in the top three tier of exhaustion perks that we have in the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I get what you're talking about, and I can actually agree with like a lot of that too because, um, for me personally, I didn't even think about when you're going against very specific killers too, and that's on my part. Where, as you mentioned before, was Doctor, and you can also name a whole ton of more. Was probably Clown. You can probably name it was
Bubba.
Executioner. Uh, more than likely you can hit Bubble with it, but
Mm,
I'd say
Yeah.
probably biggest one would be Nurse too. That's a huge one that more than likely you're not going to be hitting those pallets on a Nurse. So in a sense, that exhaustion period is going to be a wasted slot if you're getting very specific killers. But ultimately, when you're looking at these killers too, a lot of them can be considered ones that are more plays, such as Nerds and Executioner. So I can definitely say that Smash Hit could be not in the same height like above Sprint Burst, but again, it could still like very well still be pretty useful for a lot of those again because a lot of the killers right now in the game are basic M1 killers. So a
mm-hmm.
lot of them won't be really
Yeah.
be able to use their powers to really stop you from looping and all that. But yeah, no, definitely it could really again, yeah, it's obviously was a little bit more time and like a little bit more testing because we're gonna be having a lot more PC players, a lot more console players actually be actually playing this new chapter. So then we can actually get more of an idea of how it'll actually fit into the new meta. So again, it's just me being hopeful about having something new because obviously when we look into the meta, you just have your usual stuff with survivors like you have your Diaz, your bar time, unbreakable, dead
Yeah.
hard, like very like same old stuff. So hoping to have something like be part of a new meta that everyone can start running a little bit more would be a good like even if it's just one single perk, it's just gonna be huge, like breaths of fresh air. Like that's what I'm looking at right now.
That's true.
Definitely. I think like with yeah, we said certain maps. I think like Gideon meatpacking plant where there's ton of pallets. Like even if you don't get the stun off, you could go to the next one and try to force them to swing. Especially like it'll work against M1 killers that just want to swing and get a hit off. And you might take a health state for it, but like especially, and even as you were saying, dance with me, I was thinking like quick and quiet dance with me, deception, like you could
Yeah.
just disappear. Like so I think I'm very excited to use this perk, and yeah, I think
Mhm.
it's my most excited perk out of the three.
I feel like it's definitely along the lines of like a meme build. I mean, I get
Yeah,
it's not a meme build, but like it's definitely a meme build. Like that killer's
yeah,
not gonna know where you are at all.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run it.
yeah.
No,
Me too. Me too.
And again, with looking to smash it again, I feel like a lot of us are more excited for this one. Again, for me personally, I feel like it's the top one right now for us to be looking at. However, next perk, I'm I'm just not very all too excited for it.
yeah,
Self-preservation. So what it does is pretty much whenever another survivor in a 12-meter radius of you gets hit by a basic, or apparently now it says also special attack, it'll activate. So for the next few seconds of 10 seconds of the maximum, your scratch marks are hidden, grunts of pain are 100% gone, and then you don't leave any pools of blood for full 10 seconds. The grunts of pain and pools of blood have been added again with a recent buff to the perk alongside with Smash It, so it has a little bit more value, but again, it's just it's so situational when you really look at it because a lot of people have been explaining that it kind of falls down to it's mainly used for flashlight saving, you know? So instead of
Mhm.
Yeah,
just using your whole iron will, you know, your I guess fixated or et cetera, this is basically just all that into one single perk for you to go into the flashlight saves and you're done. Like that's about it. You know, there's not much more value to it. So yeah.
yeah, definitely. It's definitely situational, and it's like a hybrid of like poised, iron will, lucky break. It's like yeah, no sound, no blood, and no scratch marks. Like that's pretty huge. It's a short amount of time,
it's
but
just
also like yeah, like unless you're going for flashlight saves and actively trying to do this, like within 12 meters, that you got to be pretty close, you know.
Yeah.
And I could see countless situations where you're just going to be outside of that or something. Like even if you have bond or something. But I feel like yeah, like I mean for yeah, flashlight saves and like just kind of memeing and having fun. I think it'll still be like a fun perk. It like, but definitely harder to run. Kind of like breakout, but like you can be pretty like because you have to be pretty close to breakout to use breakout.
yeah, it's
Mm,
Um,
10 meters or
yeah.
something.
and
10
it's like
meters.
yeah, it's like so you just have to be so close is the thing. So it's definitely a riskier perk, but I could see it being run by like meme lords and shit.
Yeah.
And with like diversion or something. Like I don't know, like just as a fun meme build, I guess. But yeah, not maybe not like competitively viable for sure.
Yeah, it's a iffy perk in my.
I think it has potential if the range was a little wider.
I'd
Like
say
that would be an
Yeah.
awesome perk if the range was wider.
I'd
Yeah,
say like
Yeah.
20
definitely.
meters, but 20 meters may be the
Like
maximum right
16,
there.
even
Well, does
16.
it
Yeah,
like work if you walk into that 12-meter radius, or is it just that you have to be in the 12-meter radius is when the survivor gets attacked?
Ah,
I think it can
that's
be
I think it's
either
when they get attacked, but I could
Yeah,
be
when they
wrong.
get
yeah.
hit.
Yeah.
You have to be in that already. You can't just
Mm.
walk into it when you've
So
already been hit.
basically, like you have to. I would think you have to run bond or just have a very good idea of like where they're looping. You know.
Well, I
Or probably the fantasy.
I feel like this is a what do you call it? I feel like this is a perk where it's like Zane said, it could be very strong for flashlight saves. I think it's definitely more of a Swift perk, if anything,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because you'll have a lot more communication about like where you're being looped at. And I know times that we play, we always tell each other like, "Oh, well, I'm going down here," and like, "Oh, okay, well, where are you looping? I'm looping here. Blah blah blah. Can you make it? X Y Z." So it's definitely a little bit more useful with that sort of like conversation happening. Um,
Definitely.
I don't think it's like hot garbage. I mean, it's definitely not the best. That's for sure. Like I still rather run freaking like Lucky Brick, Iron Will, and whatever else I'm running because of the fact that that's literally active all game and I don't have to worry about like or like, Lucky Break at least until I get healed again or whatever. But you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's more
Yeah.
consistent than what this is.
Yeah. You have to
So
work for it. Yeah.
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think this is like as good.
Isn't Lucky Break as long as your timer doesn't run out? Lucky Break can still be reactivated as long as your timer doesn't run out the
As long
first
as your
time.
Yeah,
timer
basically.
doesn't run out, you get healed, you're literally fine.
Because I know it's like I think it's a one-time use if the timer expires, right? Or is that a
I
different perk?
I think it
Yeah.
is.
yeah, I think it
Because
I
I
is
think
think
the
too.
all
timer still goes off even if you heal yourself.
so like
Yeah.
if I heal myself and then I get a hit again, it can activate again because I healed. But if I don't heal, I think it's donezo. I don't
Yeah.
It's
know.
like paused or something. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
I
the
think it
perk
just
is just
pauses.
gone. Yeah.
It's like anytime
Um,
you're injured, but yeah, as long as the timer's still up. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, that makes
basically.
sense.
I think another thing we actually have to look into this is that how, and again, I feel like it just comes down to more of a, it hurts your team more than it actually helps that because you have to realize too that the only reason it activates is when your teammates get hit, you know?
Mm.
So it's
Yeah.
another like perk that's just pretty much like, you gotta have your teammates get hurt for it to be useful again. Like
Yeah.
it's just one of those perks that keep falling into that same
But
category
this
where
time
it's more
they don't have to be dying this time.
I mean, yeah, but obviously just for me
It's
it's
just
like
that
you
one perk requires them to be dying on hook. This one requires them just to be hurt a little bit.
a
Yeah.
little bit, yeah.
Just take a protection hit for the homie.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just a flesh wound. Don't worry about it.
One time for the one time,
True.
Holmes. One time for the one time. Take this hit for me so I can disappear, ninja
Until you get
vanish.
downed by a Bubba or a Billy, then well,
Oh, then you have a problem.
Is it,
Houston,
it, it?
we
It's
got
a
a
hit regardless of like what method, right? It's
Yeah,
just
it's just
anytime
whatever.
you get
It's not.
hit. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's good at least.
yeah. So we can always look at the positive of it. But for an entire perk set, I think overall Yoon doesn't have too bad of a perk set. But ultimately, I think a lot of people are just looking at one specific perk as per usual that they might see the more value of it versus the other two perks that just kind of feel like it's just uh I guess it's like filler, like it's just another two
Yeah.
perks in the pool set that more than likely you're just gonna forget about in the future once more perks get added into the game, and
yeah,
that's
for
sadly
sure.
how a lot of perks go. But going to Yun though specifically, just how her entire design is, where again we're going back into the K-pop theming of it, where we have, I believe she was a manager for uh the K-pop group in her lore specifically. So the way she's dressed and everything, it just kind of seems that she's obviously just like a boss. Just for me personally, I do like her design ultimately. Like it just kind of it's very popping off more. Well,
Didn't
compared to
the
everyone else, I can have
pictures
just
for
very bland clothing. Like
wasn't
it's
the
just
Yeah.
pictures saying that he was with like he started working with the survivor as well with Yin? I think in his lore said that he like eventually started working with her, and that's where
Yeah.
he's
yeah.
and that's how he became obsessed with her and everything because she was training him and all that stuff.
hmm
So, which is I think is really interesting for the overall uniqueness for both characters in
Yeah.
this game.
No, definitely. And I think this is the first time in just terms of original characters specifically, this is the first time I think both the survivor and killer had an actual in like connection to them, because a lot of times survivors and killers, whichever they pair it up with for original content, it's just they just have each of their own backstories, but it's never intertwined, they just pair two people up and that's
Yeah.
about it. I think that's the first time though that these two are actually connected into a story that actually makes a
Mhm.
lot of sense.
Do they
That's
happen to
true.
have any like voice line interactions when they see each other in the game?
I don't think
No,
so.
the only one between the two that has like an interaction is that the killer, the trickster, has interactions with all the survivors technically,
hmm
but it's the same thing for every survivor though.
That
He
would be
laughs.
so interesting. Like
You know how the huntress kind of laughs a little bit.
if the survivor
Yeah.
got in a chase with the killer and like one of them was just like, "Oh, it's you again" or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
Me
It's
every
like
time I see
also
Literally,
long
Freddy,
face.
oh, it's you
me every
again.
time I see Spirit or
Yeah.
It's you again.
But you know how the huntress laughs a little bit, Ashy, sometimes during her lullaby.
Yeah, she does. I love
It's
that.
the humor, but the trickster does it more consistently though, and it's like during every chase he gets in, he kind of laughs at you, and he's also does stuff when you get on hook. Like if he hooks you, he laughs, or he goes na 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 na, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I fucking love it.
I love them both. I think they're both really unique.
yeah. I think
Right,
it.
right.
Yeah, it's like it kind of teaches like, oh, we have a very like uh stereotypical view of like, like horror, and like everything's like bland, it's all these like grays and stuff, but then you introduce all these like colors and stuff, and it's, oh, but they still have really dark backstories, it's just everything looks
Mhm.
glittery and stuff, but yeah,
They're
pretty
I
cool.
also
think I
Looks
feel
can
like
be
that's
deceiving.
definitely one of the best. Like I love like comparisons with that. Like just having something that looks so like welcoming and bright, and you feel like, oh my god, this is so awesome. I feel so safe. Or like, oh my god, this is so awesome. Like psychedelic type shit. Like it looks so good. You know what I mean? And then next thing you know, you're like, there's a murder on the loose. Like what? I love that stuff.
True,
Yeah.
true. I actually read the lore on the Survivor, and I was really interested. I wish they had like a longer, deeper story of it actually to read more of.
Mhm.
Like a
it's
Yeah,
book. Write a
definitely.
whole book about
right
these two.
on.
Thank you.
Fucking do
I
it.
will read
Make a
it.
movie. Make a movie
Make
about
a
it.
movie. I'll
I
watch it.
honestly, yeah.
I'll
Ted
watch and
Bundy,
read it.
Ted
Another
Bundy's
Netflix
movie. Now we
series.
make the tricksters.
Yes.
Yeah.
But again, actually, I'll swap it over to the killer real quick because we were more enticed about how the new killer is right now, which is currently dubbed right now the trickster. For me personally, when you look into the interactions with him, I think by far the most expressive killer to date in the game. Just of how much, like, I guess how much he interacts with like the environment around him when he downs someone, when he gets stunned, like all
The
these different things.
wink. The
Yeah, the
wink.
fucking
Oh,
wink. Yeah, even in
yes.
the lobby, this man fucking winks at you. I love it so much.
We love
When
this
you
man.
stun him with DS or you stun him with pal, he goes says something in Korean, and then just fixes his hair.
Yeah.
Zane, I remember the freaking game we were playing for. I think it was just Kill Your Friends, and you saw they're like, "Oh my god, he actually fixed his hair."
Yeah. I love it so much.
Because
Oh,
I
he
D,
did.
To be
because
fair,
I
that's
because
exactly
I
what I would
DS
do.
because I DS'd him, and then I ran away a little bit, and then he's like, "No, I think I
No,
DS as it was as and I DS'd, and then it was Zane looking. He's like, "Oh my god, he fixed his hair." And I was
yeah. It's so great.
like, it was awesome. And he does the
Uh,
same thing when you stun him with a pallet. He's just like interacting with
yeah.
everything. It's just so great.
I think also when he drops a survivor, he kind of like he throws his hand like in disgust too. Like when he drops, he's like, ew, like gross. Like it's so like these little things you see just
Peasant.
make this game so much fun. Like that's why we love this game a lot of times too. It's just like scenes like this.
For me, when it looks at this
Definitely.
killer, it's like people are like, "How is this like?" I've seen on like because I follow DVD on Twitter and Facebook, but I see more of the comments on like Facebook because that's what I check up most. Like people were saying this isn't even scary, and I'm like, "How is this not scary to you? Like this is like things that people in real life can relate to because some people actually go through this kind of stuff, and it's actually horrifying in knowing that this is something that happens in reality. You
Hmm.
This
know,
is like
it's something it's in my opinion, I would if I was famous and also I was like, wait, I got a guy who's stalking me, and then also when I turn around, there's a guy literally standing there with a baseball bat, a massive grin on his face, holding knives in another hand, and he's
yeah,
just got blood all over him, and I'm just like,
it's
oh,
it's
I gotta
definitely
run.
like peak psychoticness. Like I know like
Mhm.
when we think of DBD, like the doctor is like your stereotypical person that's like psychotic doing all these treatments and shit like that. But
Exactly.
like this is like I feel like they kind of took a step away from what people usually think psychotic is and made it more of like a modern kind of thing with this killer.
This is
Um
kind of like a Ted Bundy type deal as well, maybe kind of like it's real, but not like. But of course, Ted Bundy wasn't like a famous superstar in K-pop, but it just can
yeah.
like relate to it a little bit because it's more real.
For sure, yeah.
Because they
Genuinely
both
though, I
were like, they just both had issues where they're just like, I just love to fucking kill, dude.
think.
So
Yeah, no, I genuinely think this is more of a down to earth kind of type chapter where, again, as Rain said before, usually when we think of horror, we just think of like all these monsters, all these fucking superhuman, like things like Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, all these type of killers that
mhm.
literally defy fucking logic itself when they're going
Mhm.
after people. But this really brings it down to like where, this can't happen. And as before when we speculated during when it was still being teased. Rain and I were speculating a lot. I think I don't know if Matt or Maz joined in on it, but we were kind of speculating how it could also be like a very specific stalker because a lot of K-pop, yeah, a lot of K-pop people deal with a lot of stalkers, and a lot of times too, it can really escalate to something a lot worse than what we realize. So I do remember there was a story, I think years ago, where there was a K-pop fan who was extremely obsessed with this K-pop singer, and he followed her all the way to her apartment and attacked her there. Thankfully, as far as I know of, she wasn't like harmed. But again, I think this is what it brings it down to is that it can happen in real life, and I think that's what makes it probably one of the more scary chapters when you really stop to think about it.
And
Yeah.
that's what I feel like people are missing the point on why this can be, like you said, the more horrifying chapter in DBD. Because basically, every other killer you're just looking at is just like some psycho, delusional person. Not like I say delusional, some psychopathic killer who's just like born to kill, pretty much per se, or something, or
Hmm.
Hmm.
trained to do it.
Yeah.
These people aren't like these types of killers like Trickster aren't trained to kill or anything. They just gain that natural instinct by just becoming obsessed, like you said, with a certain stalker or something like that,
Yeah.
which makes it kind of unique. Makes him unique among all the other killers.
Hmm.
That's true.
Because you can also look at the wraith. He's just like an entity of some sort. The hag is like an entity of some sort because she like looks like she died at one point and was like revived as some hideous creature. And some other killers I can't think of right off the top of my head that could be like that. The plague as well. She was once human but revived into some hideous freaking.
Yeah.
I don't want to say nun, but almost nunish like. But
Yeah. Oh
they're
yeah.
like
It's
all
just
they're all like kind of like entities of some sort.
Yeah,
yeah. And you
definitely.
don't have to like stalk to you don't have to wear a mask to be a stalker, you know.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Ghostface and Michael Myers, they stalk, but they got a mask, so it's like okay.
Mhm.
He's
But
like, this is
You
who I
know.
am, and you're gonna know.
yeah, exactly.
Maybe remember my face.
Hello there.
I mean, how
Yeah.
could you forget the face though? It's
You're
True.
right, though.
gorgeous.
He'd
I
be
wish
winking
I
at me
wish
every
I knew
time.
what Michael. I wish I knew what Michael looked like. The closest we ever got was the back of his head in 2017 Halloween.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But when we look into the tricks a little bit more, obviously with every killer, there's a power to him. So Tricks' power has been really kind of sparking up a little bit more debate what's in the community about if this is gonna make him extremely weak or just make him another below average killer as per usual. Where I think a lot of when you look at pretty popular Twitch streamers or YouTubers, a lot of them kind of bring it down to where they just believe that the Trickster currently right now will be the weakest killer in the game, just was looking at his power. So obviously I just want to kind of get that debate going a little bit more about how we each feel about his power and whether or not we feel like whether it might be true he could be going down into the worst killer category, or if we feel like people are just kind of making a little bit too, I guess, making too many assumptions way too early, especially when it was in PTB, obviously.
Mhm.
I
Well,
think. Yeah.
oh,
Oh,
Matt,
go
you
ahead,
could
Rain.
go.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I was gonna say I'm just talking about like because I'm thinking, but I'm just talking about. I feel like he's gonna be definitely maybe average or slightly below average killer for two specific reasons. One, I would say the weakest killer in the game right now would probably be the twins. I get it, like if you know how to use the twins, then you can be strong with her, or whatever. But survivors do have the ability to take away the power completely from the twins by holding on to Victor. So I just want to say that one. So I think she will be the weakest killer still, no matter what. Two, I would say that um Trickster would be slightly either closer to average or average because he's not just a basic M1 killer. Like there's literally killers in the game such as Ghostface who have to like kind of base like his kit off of like bloodless. Like if you can't catch up to survivors and you mark them from like a distance, you're kind of fucked, right? If survivors know how to
Yeah.
loop really well, you're kind of fucked. So there are definitely going to be killers that I think personally will be below Trickster, but I don't think Trickster would be as good as, let's say, like Doctor or like Spirit or Nurse or a Huntress. I feel like especially with the slowdown when he does uses his knife thing, like yeah, it
Like,
definitely gives him as like a small disadvantage, but I don't think it's like gonna be as bad as people say that he's, you know what I mean, like yeah.
mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
When it comes to me wanting to compare Trickster to other killers, I want to mainly focus on comparing him to the killers that he's in the same class tier as. And when I say class tier, I mean like movement speed. He's 110%, so he's with like rank like Spirit, Deathslinger, Hag, and who else is there that's 100 and who's slow as who's in there. There's another killer in there. I just can't remember who, but he's in that category. I want to say that. Oh yeah, Huntress. That is
Yeah.
Huntress. He's in. I want to compare him more to those. Is he going to be as strong as the strongest, which is currently Spirit in that class, or will he be as weak as say? I'd say the weakest out of the bunch before he hits PTB would maybe be Hag, maybe a little bit, because I like to say Deathslinger is up there with Spirit when it comes to is like maybe third behind Huntress for like that category. I'm just want to say, is he going to be the worst of all of those? And if he's the worst of all those, that automatically will just like degrade him entirely and maybe make him the weakest among everyone else. And right now, I want to say yes. Before he hits life servers, he's going to be down there for all 110% killers because his power is, I like his power, but it just takes too many knives to down someone, and it's just going to be really hard. And then as well as you got to think, you got to really focus on your mouse when you're throwing with his power too. You got to
Yeah.
really drag it down. It's like I'm playing CS:GO when it comes to
Mm.
aim
Yeah.
when it comes to aiming, because when you're playing CS:GO and you're shooting, your mouse is going up because your aim is going up when you when you fire. I have to literally like drag my mouse down to keep my aim focused on this rubber. That's why I think it makes his power weak. It makes it a lot harder to down people, especially since you need so many knives to down them with.
I feel like if we're grouping him in that category, I would say he's the weakest. The only reason I would say he's the weakest is because he has not as much value as all the other killers that you named. Like
Mm-hmm.
Spirit literally is invisible. If you want to count Death Slinger, like his terror radius, yeah, his radius of terror, whatever you call it, it's already small enough, right? You barely see him coming regardless,
Yeah,
and the
it's
range
like
of his gun is
24.
like ridiculously long, right? Or he can even just hit you, shoot you, and you're like bring you back and you're instantly down. That's strong.
Mm-hmm.
Hag literally has teleportation ability across the entire map. And Huntress, all as long as you're good at aiming, all you need is max 2 hatchets in order to knock somebody down. Not even including
Mm-hmm.
Eerie, which is max 1 hatchet to knock somebody down. So if you're including that,
Yeah.
his power is definitely a lot more weaker than everybody else come in that sort of category. But the reason I didn't specifically put him in that category is because um like even with those killers, there are still killers better than the ones we named, right? Like you can
Right.
be really good at Huntress, right? But if your Nurse is better, and she's at like a 3.6 moving speed, then you're
Yeah.
obviously going to get faster downs with Nurse than you're going to get with Huntress. So I kind of looked at it more from like an overall perspective,
Mm-hmm.
just because of the fact that when I think of people considering certain characters weak, I think of the entire character roster. But I get why you made the category out of the
Yeah.
movement speed, because he is the weakest killer out of that category, of course.
Right. I don't know if I want to say he'll be the weakest overall. It's kind of hard to tell right now, in my opinion. I can't really make that
Yeah.
judgment yet because I don't play all the killers. I would have to really just like do more research on the killers and just read how they work more in order to maybe put him where I think he'll be best at.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
it's
makes
hard
sense.
But
yeah. It's
even
hard to
even
decide with the PTB stuff because like
exactly because I don't have all
everyone's learning the
all the
killer.
killers.
I think like if you it, I don't know, yeah, the recoil's gonna mess with people. The like that's like the aim doesn't look very like user friendly, but at the
I
same
just think
time,
that weakens him too as well.
yeah. but at the same time, like that's the thing though too. Like on maps where you can just LOS the hell out of killers, like it's
Hmm.
just keep going. Like it's those long LOS like loops and stuff, and like it doesn't
It's just
seem
way
very
too.
fun to play in my opinion. But I think as far as like overall strength, he feels kind of uh the thing that may I think like I think of like play like I think of Plague as like a ranged killer, right?
Mm-hmm.
um I think what makes Plague strong is the fact if people cleanse, you have slugging potential. You have that
Yeah.
in your arsenal. This you really don't have that with him. It takes forever. He's a one chase. You have to commit to a chase or else you lose momentum. That's
Yeah.
Exactly.
that's it. Like there's no slugging potential. There's no snowball like Huntress, like whoever else you want to name. Like there's
Snowball
none of
like
that.
plague.
So
Yeah.
that's
Plague
what
is a
makes him
snowball
weak. And
too.
like I mean, you could even I think it's just because of the knives. I think of Legion too, but like you with Legion, at least you keep people in check by like running like those like slow healing perks and like
Mhm.
injuring people, making sure you keep into account like where people are, and like you hopefully get those, like if you're a good M1 killer, you hopefully get those downs. Um,
And the thing
but
is with him, you
I
definitely can't
I would
rely on
almost like I would
time.
almost say like Legion is stronger because Legion at least has like that blood stain. And I don't know, like I mean if you're good, if you're going against people who are like still figuring them out, like, and you're good with aiming your knives, you're gonna do well. But like it's still like a one, you got to go one hook at a time with this killer. There's like virtually no snowball potential unless people are injured already,
But I
and
feel
at that
like
Hmm.
point you're just a regular M1. Well, not a regular M1 killer, because unless you can get those eight, but eight is a lot. It's enough time where you might land four, but they duck around a corner and they have a ton of space now.
yeah, but if
Hmm.
I don't know like
On the open
exactly.
maps he'll be pretty good though, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say with this, but I know that RNG is definitely like a factor. Like, there's not gonna be okay. Well, there shouldn't be a single killer that's gonna dominate in every single map in the game because that's just
Yeah.
unfair to all the other killers. Like, you want your characters to have like, uh, have what's the word I'm looking for? It's not validation. It's not validation. It's something else. But you,
Reliability. Yeah.
yeah, like liability or something like that. You want your characters to like kind of have that so that way they can all maybe not necessarily see equal playtime, but they all get like sort of playtime. But what I'm trying to say is that I agree with you. I do think that like the long sightlines and things like that, it's definitely gonna suck for him. And I do think that Legion is a better character than him. But I feel like it's also been not that long. Like I it's kind of hard to like
Yeah.
decide because of the fact that we haven't really seen him be played that long and a lot of people haven't mastered him either. Of course there's going to be survivors that are better than other people, and I agree that there's like no slug ability or things like that, but I feel like that just what's the word, that just kind of uh puts this specific killer as one that's kind of relies on like your perk based build, I guess. Because like there are perks in the game that are gonna like help you, do things or whatever. Like I genuinely tend to call them clutch perks because they turn tides of games like really fast for no reason. But if you have some of them clutch perks on this type of killer, I feel like you can definitely get a lot of value even though like you might not have it like a mid game. You might have more value at in game depending on what perks you run because survivors made a mistake. Like I feel like this game is just too easy to turn the tides for us to just say like this killer is going to be garbage because we haven't seen this killer be like paired up with all these different type of perks that we already have in the game, right? We haven't seen this killer played amongst all types of ranks of survivors. Like there's going to be a point in the long spectrum or with the spectrum that he's going to be very strong, but there's going to be a point in the spectrum that he's also going to be very weak. And I think it's definitely dependent on more so what you run rather than what you do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fair.
Um,
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. For me, I actually wanted to go back into real quick where I kind of fall him into the category of both Plague and Ghostface, because keep in
Yeah.
mind with Trickster's power is that when he hits you with knives, those will stay on for you for a bit. If he's
Hmm.
not consistent with those knives, that'll fade away to where you lose your progress with that. Versus Plague and Ghostface, where Plague, if she shows up on you, that progress goes up until you're fully sick or if you cleanse. And in Ghostface, the same thing with him. He doesn't have to necessarily mark you right off the bat, but for him, he can either A, just keep you at 99%, so the next time he sees you, immediate down, or he can just hit you and then you get reset. Trickster though, it's not the same though, and that's what I think kind of hurts him a lot is that if you're not
I guess it
consistent
depends
in
on the
that chase
add-ons for it.
specifically, if you're not like I guess if you're just not going as much, if you're not putting that time into one specific survivor that you want it down, you're not gonna get the value of your power that you wanted to.
Mm,
And I
Yeah.
think that's extremely what makes him probably one of the weaker ones out there. But for Trickster, I feel like he will be more of an add-on dependent killer.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Much like I would say probably like as Trapper or Race, or currently Live Race,
Yeah.
I would say for the time being. I feel like they would be more add-on dependent to where they could be viable, but only with the right add-ons. And again, I feel like a lot of killers with the green and yellow add-ons make them
What do
probably the
you?
strongest.
Sorry,
Uh,
continue.
no, you're fine. As well, right now I do know that the purple add-on, which is a ricochet one, which you can now ricochet twice now, which was a really good buff, by the way. His add-on on that one could be strong, but at the same time, again, it's just so dependent exactly how you can work with it, and unless it's in a very closed area, to where sure some maps have closed areas, but a lot of times, like again, it's just very dependent on the environment, how like if you can actually make use of it, and
From what I've
to
seen
be
on
fair
that
too,
one, what I've seen
like.
on that one, you can use main. I've seen like a lot of people aiming at the ground with that one close to
And it's
them.
And
You can keep going
they
though.
added the double one just to actually try to stop that too, because there's no gameplay into that too. You're just aiming at the ground and then boom, boom, boom. Like it's like I think that's what they're trying to stop. But
Yeah.
Right.
keep in mind too, the only reason why I feel like the ricochet isn't as strong though is because the ricochet is not consistent enough to where you can actually aim at a very specific angle and it'll hit the
Yeah.
survivor you're aiming at. It'll just go wherever it feels like going. Like even if you're trying to aim at a corner to make it go right, it'll probably just go up for some fucking reason. And I don't know why.
Hmm.
Just because
Hmm.
it's like that. So I think
Yeah.
that's why I don't
It's
I
very
don't feel like
unreliable.
extremely unreliable. And I've done as retesting. It's not like it just can't be that consistency that you want it to be a very strong perk. Even if you put a buff into it, I think that's like it still won't really make it any more stronger. I think that's why green and yellow add-ons are probably his best ones. Where I think the throwing speed and I think the cooldown of like how fast you can throw them too. I think that's what makes it. I think the movement speed, like you get an increase when you're holding up your knives. I think those are probably the add-ons that you're gonna be wanting to run with this guy. But I feel like Trickster will definitely. I feel like in Trickster specifically, the way his power right now is, I think he can work with his power as long as probably a few things. He probably can't run very basic loop like like a T wall or like a yeah, probably like a T wall or like an L wall, like all that kind of stuff. I don't think they could really do much with that. But I say like if you're at Shack and you're trying to run to the window, you could probably hit you with a good amount of knives before you can either get to the window or to the pallet. And thus, I feel like you can really get a good value out of that, or probably one of the weaker loops where it's just like probably like the random garbage. I guess I don't know how to explain it. I think just random objects, and then there's a pallet. If it's short enough, you could probably just hit two your knives at the player, and then they can down them pretty easily. So I think there's
That's true.
some
Yeah.
specific loops that can really make this trick strong, but again, as I said before, it's just very, it's so RNG based, and I think that's what I don't like about it too. Like you can be so lucky to where there's in a complete dead end, and they're just kind of fucked, or you're the one that's fucked, and there's just a pallet, walls everywhere, trees, etc. everywhere. Like I don't know,
Yeah.
there's just so many factors that can be into it. That's why. But I don't think he's going to be the weakest killer once added. I think he has potentiality. It's just again, 1 week of PTB can't really determine all of that right off the bat.
I think
Right.
he's
Yeah.
definitely an anti-loop killer. So I feel like personally for me, I'm gonna have troubles going against him because I usually just run to like the nearest pallet, and if that's one of the pallets that doesn't have like a tree or something to crouch behind or hide behind, like you're kind of fucked. Like you're gonna get down by those knives.
Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
there's also Ormond where some of those Ormond rocks aren't high enough, so you can't even crouch and hide from a hunter's hatchet. I feel like
Yeah.
Those are going to
Oh
be
yeah.
loops. Those are
But I
going to have
feel
to be
like
loops. You'll have to take advantage of is the ones where you can't crouch and hide. And he's just going to have to try to laser you before you can get to any actual protection spot like you can hide behind, like the boxes at some of the not McMillan's, like some of the like Coal Tower or something. There's those boxes that you can hide behind.
I feel like
Yeah.
he's the most efficient way to probably play him. Maybe not too sure about this, but it's definitely more so of like the Death Slinger kind of style where you aim for the M1 first and the knife
Mm-hmm.
second. Because
Yeah.
like the knives, like everyone here basically said, just take a little too long, and I feel like it's not meant for um that kind of to get a survivor injured. Like of course it can, yeah, but I don't think that's what they should probably be used for. I think they would be more effective if you aimed for the down. Because I didn't get to test, but do any of you know, like if you hit survivors with knives and you M1 them, does that go away?
I believe so. I think
I
it's been
believe
stated that it'll get away with the progress pretty much.
Like
it'll just
over
replace that
time, or does
progress
it
with
just
the
like no,
hit.
like is it just
Like
like
It's like
immediate.
Ghost Phase.
So
It's
okay?
like Ghost Phase.
yeah,
You get
exactly.
stalk on someone and then you slap them, they lose all that stalk process on them. So
Yeah,
Hmm.
so I
if
definitely
I
feel
laser
like
you with knives and then I M1 you, you're just gonna I'll just lose all that progress and I'll replace that progress with an injured
I
state since I
yeah,
M1'd you.
I definitely feel like the M1 first would probably be the better option, especially if you go against if you add on, well, of course it depends on the person. But if you add on like slow healed builds or like nurses, sloppy, things like that, you have times where you can catch those survivors like taking their time to heal each other up, and then that gives you ample like opportunity for you to throw your knives. Like it's not just a short range kind of ability either.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can start throwing them at those survivors and initiate that chase, I mean, it's going to be on them for like not the longest period of time, but maybe a little bit. So it can give you some extra time to either like continue to throw them depending on where the loop is, or even just to like get them going so you can kind of start taking that loop way or whatever way that they're going. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah. He's
definitely.
only he's the only other killer that has to go to lockers to get more knives too. So
Yeah.
like other than
Yeah.
Huntress. So I was thinking like, well, I've seen some Huntresses like to run Iron Maiden to like reduce the time it takes to reload. That just works in your favor too. Like especially if they're trying to like heal up, like if either medkit or even inner strength, and then they pop out, boom, you're exposed. But I mean, I know they buffed it a little bit. I forget, is it like 30 seconds? But so it's not a huge amount of time. And if you're not in the area, it's not going to work. But like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
it's
uh,
Iron Maiden should be a good perk on him, I think.
I will say though real quick that I think, and again, I tested this during the PTB version of it with a friend of mine, Joris. Uh, Sadly, Iron Maiden, as much as we believe that it could have like reload faster, just like how Huntress is,
Yeah,
it sadly doesn't. It doesn't affect him, and I don't know if it was a bug during PTB or if it's supposed to be V10 that way. But potentiality, maybe Iron Maiden may not be a very strong perk for him. Sadly,
yeah.
if that was intentional for them, obviously we don't know because they never stated it. But we just have to wait till live hits. But
I
we'll
Yeah,
really
see.
hope that they fix that because,
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah,
that's gonna
yeah,
hurt him if that's true because his reload time is so slow. It's cool to see him grab them all with swipe right with one and then swipe left and grab them and do the little animation with the knives like he's
yeah,
holding a deck of cards and then put them down. That's just too long. It's more time than when Huntress grabs her hatchet, looks at it from both ways, and then closes it. She does it much faster than what he does. That's if he can't reload faster with Iron Maiden, that's gonna it's just gonna be a wasted perk slot. It's
hmm
gonna
That's
hurt.
true.
It's gonna hurt him in the end even more and make that game for him even weaker for him.
yeah.
One somebody in my stream chat, Commander, I don't know if y'all know Commander, but Commander said, they wonder if Trickster would take Save the Best for last, like Deathslinger would, and I think that perk probably would be something that definitely benefits him. Because I'm not really sure about how it will work when you're using your ability power, but definitely that speed that you have, to catch up to survivors like faster. I feel like that probably would definitely like benefit him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
oh, definitely, yeah.
Especially
It's
since he'll
Yeah,
any
be
yeah.
M1
M1
killer,
reliant for a little bit.
yeah. It gives
Because
you like
Dimbo
that,
has to use it too.
Yeah.
yeah, that cooldown, that short cool. Like once you, I mean, it's a I'm not a huge fan of save the best for last because you have to build it up. But like when you
Mhm.
get it going, it's just very helpful and it gives you more slugging potential, and that's what he's missing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt people running save the best for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think for me, because sadly opposing to Matt, I say Save the Best for Last is probably my favorite perk right now for a killer side, and that's why I love to run a lot of killers. But for me, yeah, I think that could be a potentiality of having Save the Best for Last be used on him. Where again, yeah, sure, it takes time to build up, but if you're able to get that going, once you get that M1, and then guess what, you're just back on them, probably either going for another M1 or throwing your knives at them. Like it could be really well. And I think again, this is probably just a speculation too. Probably if you're very lucky, and this is a very just again situational. Probably Devour Hope could be really good with him because keep in mind too when you're obviously when you hit someone with a basic M1, Devour Hope will be revealed to you after 3 stacks. But because of the
Mhm.
knives, more than likely you can just make sure they
Hide
never
it.
find out about it.
I
That's
feel like
true.
Save the Best will be good for him too because there's some killers like the pig, Demogorgon, as well as I'd say Bubba maybe too, but you would never run it on Bubba. But like
Hmm.
he has a power where he can use his power and not lose stacks too when he wants to down or hurt the obsession. So like
Hmm.
he could just toy. He could just toy with the obsession, get them injured with his knives, and then just say I'm done and go find someone else and down them and just keep toying with the obsession, forcing them to heal every time while he's putting that's his pressure on her or him, and then he can go over and put more pressure on the others with his bat or his power as well.
That's true. And this
It's
is
gonna
like
be a perk that'll help him out. And
I feel like this is very situational too, but I know we haven't gotten to his perks yet, but definitely running that with no way out. Like imagine like you kill everybody and the survivor there's the only survivor left is the obsession, right? You literally have all those stacks, you close hatch. What are they gonna do? Literally nothing. Literally nothing. That's like an easy 4K right there.
In Endgame, you have whispers, like you know exactly where they
Oh
could
yeah.
be. Yeah, like
True.
yeah.
Definitely, it could be really good. But yeah, no, I think there's just again, I just love this kind of discussion where we just go into this and just speculate what could or could not happen. Obviously, in Tuesday time, we're gonna know so much that we probably didn't even know during PTB because there's so many more people that actually get to actually play the chapter
Yeah.
instead of just watching streamers or you're just like waiting and et cetera, et cetera. So genuinely, no, I'm very excited to see how this could potentially play out. Uh, when actually though going into the perks of the new killer, the trickster, again, I feel like this specific killer actually might have a lot more viable perks than we realize because I feel like a lot of again perks don't. There's always just that one that stands out, and then everyone the other two just become filler. But for me, I feel like Trickster has actually some viability with his perks. So first one is Starstruck, where whenever the killer picks up a downed survivor, any other survivor that is enters that terror radius will be exposed for that duration. But obviously after they exit the terror radius, it'll stay on you for the next 30 seconds, the maximum. As far as I know of, as well, it's also a cooldown, 60 seconds. But for me, I think that's also probably one of the memeier perks, but it can also have some viability if you have the right killer. So a lot of people are looking at probably like Nurse or probably Spirit that can really use the most of that perk where,
Mhm.
they're in your terror radius and guess what? You can find them immediately. But
I think
it could
like
also probably be paired with I say Infectious Fright too, if they're really nearby to you. Like it could be
Hmm.
extremely good.
I
Yeah.
think it'll also be really good with agitation too. So
Iron
that like
grasp.
Mhm.
agitation and iron grasp, and then if you really want to get corny and memey, you can use mad grit too.
Yeah,
Get
definitely.
that extra lunge in there every single time you hit M1.
Chop chop.
Chop chop,
Yeah.
bitch! I'm
Chop
coming for you.
chop.
I
I
got
feel like
agitation.
I feel
So
like
I
that
mean,
Maybe it
perk.
counters like survive with friends.
Yeah.
it can, yeah, it can. It takes away like flashlight saves,
Sabo
mate,
breakout. Yeah.
Sabo,
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like it
That's
would
actually
Otherwise, like,
definitely
but
be
break
like close to meta perk.
it
I
could
feel
be
like it can
close.
be.
I
Yeah.
do
it could.
think it's strong.
I just think I think it hurt. I think it's a perk that kind of hurts the killer a little bit because it's 90-second cooldown. A long time.
That's true.
I do
It's
have
a
a
very
question about it.
it's a very long cooldown. I mean, you only get in the thing is it's 90 seconds for a cooldown, and you only get 30 seconds of it activated too.
Oh, it's a
So
60-second cooldown.
it's a 60-second cooldown now.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
hear you say that then, but
Now you're good.
60-second cooldown with 30 seconds of exposed. I mean, I think 30
I have a
seconds is
question
not a
about that
lot.
bird. Like when it activates, do you see that activation? Like there's a survivor near you. Would you know? Like when a
No,
survivor breaks a hex totem and it kind of like does a thing at the bottom, would you know?
no, you
Mm,
would not know. I think
it's not
that's
a hex
why,
hook.
yeah. So that's why I said Infectious Fright would probably be really good to pair up with them because you would know who was in your terror radius during that time.
Yeah.
Versus if it's just
Oh yeah,
Starstruck, you're not gonna know.
true. Yeah. The thing is, I was thinking like really memes because yeah, I wrote down kind of agitation, iron grass, mad grit, right? But like what? So I was thinking about like since it's terror radius dependent, you can't run like undetectable things, and I forget like because I was thinking maybe like that pyramid head perk with
Force.
Oh, Trail of
Wait.
Torment.
Force.
Trail of
Something like that.
Torment, yeah.
Yeah.
So like you kick the gen, then you pick up, and then you're undetectable. So it's not just a meters thing, it's actual terror radius, right?
Ooh, so
Yeah.
maybe
So
with what's that other perk knockout? Maybe that with knockout, so they can't see the survivor on the ground, and then you
that's
kick
true
the gen,
too, yeah.
and you're invisible, and so is the survivor.
But the thing is, yeah, like I think like I was trying to think of like undetectable, but I don't think it actually works well together because it sounds like it's terror radius dependent, not just meters. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like,
yeah.
Right.
Does that count for fucking Legion and his like when he uses his power
but that
and
would
it's
be
like,
fun as hell if they made it
oh,
meters.
what the
So
heck?
so think
Yeah.
about to keep in mind. I think well, first of all, with that Legion power thing, as fun as I would love that, it sadly does not work that way because it's power dependent. So the moment he picks up the survivor, like the
Yeah.
terror is gone. Like
Oh,
it
that's
doesn't
Wait,
work.
wait,
true.
wait. But what about the pink add-on for Legion where the terror radius is across the entire map?
No, that's what he was talking about.
That's
Okay,
Oh
okay, I
yeah.
wasn't sure.
No, no, you're fine, you're fine. But I think another one I think a lot of people kind of sleep on would be Dark Devotion, where for those who don't know,
Yes.
hit your obsession, they have your terror radius now. So if your obsession
True.
is with someone, they're not gonna know and they're just exposed randomly. They're like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm actually excited if that works.
Is there
Like,
no like perks for killers that extend like your terror radius? I could have sworn there
Uh,
was.
there's
Distressing is one, and
distressing,
monitoring
but
abuse.
that's basic though. Distressing is a basic perk that's available to
Uh,
everyone.
Modern abuse could also be very good for you too, because obviously when
Mhm.
you're in the chase, you'll have that increase of your terror radius, which is really good for Doctor. Michael actually has it too for a Scream for Myers, so it's a slugging potentiality too if you really want to go that route.
yeah.
Interesting.
I didn't even think about the Legion add-on. Yeah, so we got some fun things to test out, I guess.
I
Hmm.
feel
Yeah,
like that perk's gonna be like I know everyone's scared of like freaking Scratchman Michael and Larry's and Ghostface and Larry's, but I feel like that perk right there is more terrifying than that. Could you imagine? You're literally just by the killer. Like I got the flashlight save. Oh shit, I'm exposed.
Oh shit, I'm exposed. Imagine that. You can also put that perk on Doctor too, and just go to the game.
oh
Get into
my
the
god, that
game.
would be
Oh
And
terrifying.
shit,
literally,
yeah.
it's literally constant terror radius all game long. So you're
Distressing with yeah, oh my god.
constantly
Uh,
exposed, and you're just like, it's Doctor, so I'm definitely shitting
yeah,
bricks right now.
yeah,
Quitting the
no
game,
Doctor.
logging out right now.
Yeah, this
You,
T.
you can
That's
literally
not
do
TBD.
you can do 3/4 impossible skill check Doctor instead of adding the fourth quarter for his impossible. Just take that out and throw Starstruck in there, and
Yeah,
I still think it'd be just as good as a build for him there.
That's true.
I'd say maybe take away Hex Lullaby maybe, and it's fine.
potentially, yeah,
And then you just need and then add-ons: Iridescent Queen or King, and then extended range shock.
yeah,
Cool.
no,
It's
definitely.
constant exposed, constant going down. So
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely Doctor's trying to be the biggest killer that's going to get a lot of value out of this specific perk. So then again, yeah,
well,
no,
I feel like he
genuinely
has a lot
thinking,
of potential with Starstruck. Yes,
yeah.
especially
Um,
since now they're. I mean, I still wish the exposed status effect was maybe a little bit longer.
Mm.
Yeah, but
just to
you
move it,
know,
maybe 45 seconds.
yeah, but again,
And
obviously,
then
once
and then I can agree with the maybe the close to 90-second cooldown if the exposed status was longer.
I don't think any killer has that ability really though to make it longer than 30 seconds, right?
No, it's
Other
just
than
the perk
Michael.
itself. It's just the perk itself that has the exposed status effects set in
mhm,
stone for it. I just wish that Zane, you said it's cooldown for 60 seconds now, but it's still
yeah.
only a 30-second effect, which I think
Well,
just it's
the
a
way it works
small
is that
because how long are you exposed if you break haunted ground?
it's a full minute
Yeah, I
at
mean,
max.
I don't want to run a haunted ground anyway, but I
Well,
would
well,
rather
keep
just
in mind too was this specific perk is that as long as you're in the terror radius, as far as I know of, like for as long as you linger in the terror radius, once the survivor is picked up, you're still exposed. Isn't it? Isn't it? It isn't until after um you leave the terror radius. I think that's when you have the 30 seconds. That's when
okay.
it lingers.
That's when the 30 seconds starts to drop.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be better. I think that'd be fine, but I maybe still a little bit longer. Just a
You
little
say
bit.
that until you're the survivor, and then you're gonna be the
Yeah.
one
I
like
know,
really mad.
but the thing is I play both Survivor and Killer now, so I kind of maybe want to a
I
little
don't
bit
know.
longer.
I feel like you would rage at it personally.
Imagine
That's
doing
true.
this and then like
Maybe.
you know how survivors are so like quick to jump into like lockers for hiding away from killers, like just add Iron Maiden on top of it, like they literally have nowhere to go at that point. Like
The
I
True.
don't
full
know,
exposed
I
world.
yeah, I feel like it's kind of strong the way it is now, but I don't think adding time would be any better. Like I don't think it would make it better. I think that it will
Mhm.
make it more broken if anything.
Yeah.
It's a
But
good perk
uh,
though. I like the idea of it though.
yeah, no, I definitely like the perk. Honestly, I think it's really good. But going to the next perk, I think this one definitely is probably the bigger one that I know Moz has been very vocal about for the past few days since it's been released. And it's also been a topic that we keep discussing over Hex crowd control, where it's extremely very similar to how Hex
It's not
I already
hex.
forgot the name of it.
It's just called bamboozle.
Blood
No, no,
favor you're
no, no,
talking
no, no,
about?
no.
Blood
Yeah, blood
favor,
favor. That's the one I
blood
was talking
favor.
about. Yeah, the similarity of how it is. So pretty much what Hex crowd control does is that every time a survivor fast faults a window, it'll be blocking for a 14-second maximum. And this can be happening with multiple windows at a time. So, for say, if you're trying to loop at a T wall, L wall, if there's two windows there, if they hit both of those at the same exact time in under 14 seconds, both of those windows will be blocked. So, um, again, this is kind of a bigger debate of how we look at how both, hex crowd control works and how bamboozle works. Uh, for me personally, I don't think it's strong enough because again, to keep in mind, it's a hex perk and how
Hmm.
situational perks can be, especially how totem spots can be really bad, and that's why a lot of hex perks are saying don't make too much value. It's like same thing with how ruin is right now, where you can have it, but if for some fucking reason the survivor spawned right in front of it, you're not gonna get much value out of it, and that's why I feel like it's so situational and not going to be much of a rival towards Bamboozle, which sure you can only block one window at a time, but it's more consistent rather than just like, okay, this perk can just deactivate whenever as long as they find it.
I
Right.
feel
Yeah.
like it's kind of a good thing for it to deactivate because, okay, I'm talking mainly from survivor side here, but
Hmm.
like survivors need loops in order to survive, especially with some of like these killers' powers and some of the like other perks and things that they have. Like without loops, like survivors are literally nothing. Of course, they have pallets, but like at the same time, like I said earlier, it's easy to bait pallets. Brutal strength, you can break a pallet easily and catch up to a survivor again. Like if it wasn't on a hex, I feel like it would be a little bit too strong, mainly for the fact that it also happens for multiple windows. So like it's smaller, think of like smaller maps with like loops that are very close to each other. It I feel like it would be a lot harder for survivors to survive through that because there's no way you're going to be able to get back to the loop where you started when the killer's chasing you away from it, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Um, So I'm kind of glad that it's a hex. But I do like the fact that it works for multiple windows and that it is 14 seconds. I feel like if it was added like a little bit more, so I would say maybe like 16, maybe even to 20 seconds. I feel like that would be okay. Um, to benefit the fact that it's a hex, but like I don't know. Like that's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, no,
Just
definitely.
this, I like this perks idea. I actually love its idea. Actually, it's a really nice perk if you're a killer, and I'd like to be able to, like, sometimes some TLs can be really annoying. Like,
Hmm.
let's just admit that. Even though TLs are generally weaker, I think they can be pretty annoying if a survivor effectively has the good mind games and makes the right reads, because then TLs can become obnoxious. And I just think it being a hex perk, like you said, hurts it the most, because then pop, it's gone. Like Zane said,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
becomes rendered useless. But and then I got bamboozle. It's not an X perk. Yeah, it only can block one window, but think about it. I mean, Bubba takes most advantage with bamboozle, and that's really the only killer we see with bamboozle, though, because it actually ascends his power and ultimately gets faster downs with it. So, I mean, honestly, I would unfortunately run Bamboozle over this perk still. But I
Mhm.
do
Yeah.
love this perk, and I would like to play around with it with maybe Undying and stuff like that, and try to see if it can give me a good amount of time. Well, see if it can give me a good run throughout at least half the game.
How long does bamboozle last again?
Longer than that, I think. I think longer than 14.
No, I think it's actually a little bit
I think
shorter
it's a
than that.
little bit. I thought it was like 10.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe 10
Yeah.
seconds. Yeah, I
Let
think
me
So
it's
check real
like
quick for
I
yeah.
think 10 might be the max at level 3.
Yeah.
you.
So I think like it can give you some value like if it's a longer loop and it's like okay between 10 and 14, but like usually it's like it's still just a hex totem, so it's like it's not going to give you for the length of the game. It's
It's
not
gonna
really going to
have to
do much for you.
it's gonna
Yeah.
have to be a perk you run with Undying.
It's like beginning. I think it's early game pressure. If you find someone quickly, they haven't found your totem yet. Like that.
Mhm. It's
It's
gonna be something
early
that
enough
you're
and
like, okay, I
to
need
kind of
to
jumpstart that. Yeah.
kind of need to get going real quick.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can either not go as planned because the survivors you're going against are really good and know how to efficiently loop and have predetermined plans on their loops, or it's gonna
Yeah.
go great because they potato the loop and you're just like you take full advantage of it. Because it's gonna come down to you
Yeah.
taking advantage of the situation you just put the survivor in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I checked real quick for Bamboozle. It's actually at a maximum, it's 16 seconds, or 2 more seconds more than
Oh
crowd
dang.
control.
So
Yeah.
it's longer. I figured it. I thought it was longer.
Honestly, I thought it was shorter for some reason. I don't know why, because
I
Yeah.
think
Me
it's
I don't
I
too.
know.
think it's I think it's 12, 14, 16.
Okay.
I
Did
think
they
so.
buff it or something? Like, yeah, that sounds seems like a lot, honestly.
No, it's actually 8, 12, 16 for
Oh, so it goes at
Bamboozle.
4. It goes at 4. Nice. Okay.
Dang.
That's different though. Usually they go up by intervals of 2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or something like that.
But yeah, I think I love this. Like I said, I like the two ideas with these two perks for Starstruck and crowd control. It's just that I think crowd control is really punished a lot by being a hex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, I don't know. For me, I think there's more value to Bamboozle than
I
crowd
think
control,
maybe
sadly.
I think maybe a greater idea for crowd control to make it not be a hex is to maybe like decrease its time, just to maybe not decrease it entirely, but maybe keep 14 as the max, for maybe make 12 seconds the max, a window's blocked off, but both windows can still be blocked off, but both windows are blocked off and they don't go on the same timer, they're both on separate timers.
Potentially. I mean, again, it also depends exactly.
Potentially, yeah,
It's
exactly.
it's it's just I feel like to this it very depends like how the survivor plays specifically, because keep in mind too that it can block multiple windows at a time in a certain time radius. So
Oh, so
again, it
it's a clock.
what?
Or that you're saying they're both on the same clock. So if I vault a window and then vault another one, they're both on like say 14 seconds going down together.
Uh, basically, yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so
okay, so the moment it gets vaulted over fast vaulted, that's when the 14 seconds starts counting down.
okay,
But like what I'm saying is that as long as they're still vaulting in that 14-second interval, both can still be blocked, or third can be blocked, or fourth can be blocked. Like multiple can still be blocked at a time,
Mhm.
but there's still a cooldown to them each one.
I
But
can so you can potentially block off, say, Killer Shack. You can block off a jungle gym, another jungle gym, and then also those loops are when they're useless with their windows.
yeah, as long as it's in a 14-second interval, it can just block off multiple ones at a time. So I think that's what kind of for me. I think that's what kind of uh, it's so situational too. Because I did realize at one point, I think it's the newest. I'm trying to remember Father's Chapel, right now how it has breakable walls right now inside the chapel itself.
Mhm.
Um, there's so many vaults in there. As long as you don't break the walls, they can just have an infinite like
Yeah.
an infinite voltage, and then that doesn't like include the T walls that are nearby, like jungle gyms are nearby. Like there's just so much that can make it so much more strong. And again, that's just very very specific, I guess, to circumstances, but again, it's just very dependent how it would go so far.
Mm.
Yeah. It's definitely map dependent and depends on what you do with
RNG.
the stuff. Yeah.
Zane's got to go shut the puppy up.
I wrote in Rain's chat, I'm like Zane with the awa awa.
Ow.
Well,
Puppy
Ow,
goes.
ow.
I
Puppy
feel
goes.
like
Ow, ow.
true. I feel like RNG plays a bigger role in DBD than anything else.
Like,
Like,
guys,
I don't know. It
like
just there's
most are
just
RNG based.
yeah,
Like you're like, I'm running to where I know a pallet is. Oh, there's no
no
pallet
palette.
there.
Well, I guess
Yeah.
I'll go down.
Guess I'll take a hit in a sprint burst. Slap me, Mr. Killer.
Yeah,
Okay,
basically.
gotta go.
Yeah,
Oh, what's
I
that?
think
My
it's
teammate
just
popped tags haunted ground. Oh no.
Oh, sprint
It's
burst. I'm
always me.
sorry.
and me,
I
me
beg
too.
you, just stop breaking the totems.
Yes. Please just stop breaking totems.
But Ashley's like, a totem. She has to
A
If it
break
glows,
it.
it
totem.
goes.
Let her break it so she can go crouch.
Crown.
I was so sad that match. I
You're
forgot what
like,
the
just
killer
leave
was.
them alone.
Yeah, I was like, I don't care if we die, just leave it, leave it, don't touch it anymore.
I
That
think it
one,
was like 3 totems I broke at that point.
you see one glowing totem, check for another one.
They had like 4, dude.
Yeah, it's nuts.
All right, Zane, have you silenced the puppers?
Poor doggo. It just wanted
He's
to
like,
be included.
He just wants a treat.
I think he had to pee. That's why Zane's gone still right now.
No, he just barks at whatever is outside. Like literally, it
I
can
had a
be.
dog like that.
Squirrel!
Yeah.
Squirrel! Bum, bum.
Yeah,
Is it a wiener dog by any chance?
yeah, it's a mix.
Is it really?
Yeah,
It's a wiener dog thing.
Well, I know what
yeah,
not to
Yes.
get.
obviously not. But yeah, no.
Get him a hot dog squeaky
So
toy. Cannibalism.
yeah,
That would be worse for the podcast.
it really would be honestly. I mean, it would calm him down a bit, but but
I'd rather hear squeak squeak than boo boo.
yeah. I mean, how do you think I feel a lot of times where it randomly happens too? I'm just trying to mind my own business and just bar, like okay, chill.
He wants a burger.
You want
Don't
a
get a
weenie?
break if you don't behave.
I want to win.
But
Okay.
we can move on to the next perk, which I think a lot of us. So again, we've already mentioned it before, where I think it's more probably it's gonna be a really good end game build perk that'll very much work with probably Noed, Blood Warden,
Yeah.
Remember Me, like a lot of these different ones. So No Way Out is the newest addition to the end game builds, I would say. So pretty much in the way it works is that after the all generators, or at least I guess one, yeah, I'd say when all generators are.
Last generator's new.
Wait, hold on, I'm trying to read this real quick. So for each survivor you manage to hook, you gain a token of No Way Out. So when the last generator is repaired,
Like
so okay, so
barbecue.
interesting, yeah. So when the last generator is repaired, the entity will block both exit gates for a maximum of for the base is 10 seconds, but for each
Isn't it
token
like
you
for
get,
each
it'll give
unique?
you 8 more seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't
So what it means by
it
unique
like
is pretty much like you can't just hook the same survivor over and over again and get tokens. you can only get it after hooking each survivor separately.
It's a max of
So it's
4. Yeah,
yeah, so
like
it's like how
barbecue and chili.
barbecue
Yeah,
works. Yeah. So for a total, you can block the execute for a total at the maximum potential of 42 seconds. So again, this is more of an in-game build perk to where again we can probably run a Remember Me, NOED,
Girl,
Blood
don't be
Warden
giving
if
them
you really want to
ideas.
risk it. Yeah. So it's something to really look into, but again, it's just for me. I think this is a really fun like build to really work with. Again, it's probably gonna be one of those
for
meme
sure.
builds that you're just gonna be like, haha, no one leaves my game now. You're all staying here with me. Like,
Yeah,
and again, they can't really do much as long as you're able to hook all four survivors. You get the maximum potential of it too.
Does
So
it
like, they're kind of
work
just
when you close the hatch?
as far as I know, it has not stated that. No, yeah, I don't think it ever states that. So I don't think it'll work once hatch is closed, like when any game specifically starts. So
Mm.
yeah, I
I
don't.
would think. I
Again,
would
it doesn't.
think. I would
it
think
doesn't
it
not say when the
should.
gates are powered though,
It
or
says when the
But it
last
always,
generator is
but it says when the
repaired.
last generator is repaired.
Yeah,
So I wonder if they're gonna
uh,
be like, we're gonna be true to that wording, or if they're like, well, if the killer closes hatch, it's end game. So there it is. It could work that way,
yeah.
I
but
feel
I don't
yeah,
I would
know. As of
say
right
right.
now, I'm going to speculate it's going to be the last generator has to be repaired
yeah.
until I'm proven
I would say
otherwise.
that I would say if it works, if you close hatch and endgame starts, I would say that's extremely strong because keep in mind too, the
Yeah,
only time that'll ever happen is if it's just one survivor. So then now you have a survivor who has pretty much 42 seconds to waste before they can even try to open the door, and even then, at that point, their killer can probably find you during that time. So
Hmm.
I
it's
guess the
I think
value
that's what
that's
it
a
makes
lot to
it.
throw at like one survivor though, like to secure one
Yeah.
kill, one
So
the last kill.
So I think when you look at like Jennifer's repair, like you're looking at more than likely there's more than one survivor obviously still alive during that time. There's no way that
Yeah,
survivor's just doing the last gen on their own unless the killer is messing with them for some reason or they fell for it. But
yeah, that
yeah,
Mm.
makes
no.
sense.
Yeah, it just I think it just works with the last generator being repaired and that's pretty much how it is.
Sounds good
Me
to
too.
me.
I feel like it'll be a fun perk to use.
I don't think
Yeah,
it will. Okay, so sorry. Zach was the one that asked if it works with the in-game collapse, but then he said the in-game collapse is 60 seconds. So
How does
if
longer
no
than
one
60?
is downed or hooked.
Is it
So
in game collapse like 3 minutes actually? I
Uh
think it's longer than
it's very
60.
dependent.
I think
I
in
think
game
it's
collapse is longer than 60.
dependent. Are you sure?
Positive it's longer than 60.
It would how do it would feel like it, yeah, because that would be very hmm. It's a timer of 2 minutes. The
Four
entire in-game
minutes.
collapse.
Mine says
Okay.
4 minutes. Mine says 4 minutes on it.
No,
That's
the
the maximum
maximum.
no. So I think that's when you're down.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking at
So when you're down or someone's hooked, have the speed time go by half. So that's why it's 4 minutes a maximum.
Mm-hmm.
so 4 minutes if you're not like injured or something.
So technically, it still could work because you have the 60 seconds for the block, like 40 seconds blocked and 20 seconds to open the gate, and then you have that extra 60 seconds left if it's a minimum of 2 minutes. So I don't see why it wouldn't work at in-game collapse, but who knows?
Mm,
It didn't just feel
would
like
be
it would be
interesting.
way too strong though if it's because of in-game collapse. It also starts up just because again it's just one survivor more than likely that'll be during the end game collapse. So I think that's what makes it
and
so
plus, I mean,
I guess
if it
rough.
activate, I would say if it activates, not really a problem for me. It's only 42 seconds ticking down, and I got 4 full minutes technically to open the gate
But
still.
that's just saying that
Yeah.
that's just saying that if there's only one survivor left. But
Mm-hmm.
if
If there's more
mm,
for side.
well, who
Mm.
knows?
If there's only one
Again,
survivor left, I mean, I'll have a full 4 minutes,
But then I
and
think about like what if there's four survivors left? One of them brings a key. You close hatch. Well, I mean, I guess in game's already started at that. No, it
in
didn't
game's already started.
actually. In game only starts when you close hatch. It doesn't start with because the gates can't be opened.
'Cause-
It doesn't start with because the gates can't be opened. 'Cause 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 the
End
Hmm.
game starts the moment the last generator is repaired.
No, it
Doesn't it?
doesn't. It starts
Oh
when
wait,
the
no,
gates
no,
are
No.
the door's
opened.
open. That's right, the door
But if they're
opens.
blocked and somebody brings a key, they get through hatch and you close the hatch, but there's 3
And
survivors left.
end
Then
game starts.
technically, but then the perk should technically still be up, right?
It should be up, yes, because it's on a timer still. Because the last generator was repaired, from what you're saying.
That's true.
So like I finished the last generator, you, me, Zane, and Ash or Matt, we're running for gates now, but the gates are blocked. Say you have a key ring, you open the hatch, but no one else can escape because there's of course an animation lock. So we have to wait for you to go through. So the killer's not going to close it. Gates are still blocked. He can close the hatch, and then we have to scram and find a way to get the gates open and get away and get out.
Yeah.
We'll still have to wait out that timer.
Yeah.
And then also, then again, he could add an extra 60 seconds with Blood Warden, which makes it even more.
Which you're just gonna
But
die at that point.
and then you're just like, yeah, I'm dead.
all right. But no. Again, obviously, it would have to be done in testing to see how it actually works. I don't think a lot of people really thought about that during the PTB time, but again, it's kind of for speculation. But
Well, I'll be honest.
yeah, obviously, we don't know.
The devs know because they had to think about
Oh, well, yeah, that's fair.
They thought of it and they committed.
But yeah, no, I feel like No Way Out, like regardless though, if we're looking at any game collabs, I still feel like it could be a really fun perk, and I feel like a lot of I'd say specific killers, like I would say probably Trapper and Freddy, who are technically able to trap the gate specifically, would probably strive off of this to buy them a little bit more time too, going into that.
it.
True. Plus, it's like, yeah, you'd have to be like expecting it and really prepare for the immersion
That's true.
on the survivor side. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
Urban evaders.
exactly. Be very quiet.
Sneaky little
Very
bastards hiding
shush.
from me.
Rain.
What?
Right.
Rain doing that crab walk in the
Dude,
grass.
it's the duck walk. He's just duck walking around like, bye, bitches.
I love it.
Plop, plop, plop.
I just love the animation of the feet. The feet are just going up, down, at a perfect angle.
This is true.
Toes to the sky, toes to the dirt, toes to the sky, toes to the dirt. This is fun to watch.
But yeah, no, I
It's just
think
like you see it, it's rain.
definitely through. But no, genuinely, I feel like chapter 19 has a lot of potential to be a really fun chapter, and I think overall, for all of us, I think this is just really nice of a chapter to bring into the Dead by Daylight community. Not only is it because it's K-pop scene, we can probably get a huge influx of K-pop fans who would probably like to play the game, and thus would gain a lot of popularity for Dead by Daylight. But ultimately,
Mhm.
the new Survivor, the new Killer, there's so much for us to actually enjoy, and probably a lot of us are going to hopefully have a lot of fun with this. Hopefully, a lot of people watching right now who will be hyped for the new chapter can also enjoy it. Where, again, maybe there's something you may not like about it, maybe there's some things you do, but overall, hopefully this will be a really good chapter that'll help out the game overall. And speaking of that too, that's where we actually transfer over to a lot of the buffs and or nerfs that have also been introduced to the current live game at the moment. So,
Girl.
Oh yeah,
yeah, so they've made
nerfs
a
don't
few
really be in
changes,
there yet.
but yeah, they've made a few changes in the PTB for for one current perk specifically that has probably gained a lot of popularity, but also has caused a lot of just like I would say just a lot of speculation how it would work. So the biggest one right now would be the Decisive Strike, where the way the Decisive Strike works now is pretty much once you get unhooked, you have a 60-second timer of if the killer picks you up in that 60 seconds, you get to stun them for 5 seconds. So pretty much, if they tunnel you, then guess what? They get to eat that, and then you're gonna get away for free. But the PTB version now is that whenever you unhook someone, you cleanse a totem, you touch a generator, you heal someone, and I believe there's one more. I
Heal
think heal
yourself.
yourself.
Heal yourself.
Yeah, if you do any of those actions after being unhooked and your timer's still going, your timer will immediately deactivate. So in other words, if you're at 60 seconds and for some bold reason you touched your teammate because they need the heals, that 60 seconds are immediately gone now. Like you have no more
Mm.
DS for that
Wait,
time.
so your only
Um,
option is to just sit in the grass and wait then?
see, and I think that's where the speculation comes into play about how it would work. Because keep in mind too, if your timer deactivates during that time, it can reactivate again if you didn't use it. So if you get hooked a second time, it'll come back again with a whole new timer altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But see, again, this is where speculation comes into because everything I listed here, more than likely, again, this is another conversation altogether, is that the killer a lot of times will not know you killed the survivor. You touch the generator, you cleanse the totem, etc., etc. So it's just if it'll still feel like we're still in a current way at the moment where they'll more than likely slug and probably not risk it to
Yeah.
where again they don't know you've done that specific action to get rid of your DS, so they'll more than likely still be very fearful of it.
It's gonna be
That's what
something you're gonna have to
kind of
bait. It's gonna be a bait kind of work. You gotta bait them now into thinking that
and
exactly. So like, if I'm
Yeah.
injured, don't heal me. I'm just gonna, and all of a sudden they're terriers. I'll just go up, crouch at a generator, act like I touched it. They hit me. They either pick me up thinking, okay, he touched the gen. I pick him up and then I DS him because I didn't touch it. Technically, it's gonna be a mind game perk now.
Yeah.
and I for me, I genuinely do not like that to be precise, because again, we're probably going to a huge like discussion here. But for Dead Side Strike, the only reason it became a thing was because it was supposed to become an anti-tunneling perk,
Oh, bye,
to
Ashley.
where oh there goes Ashy. So so it was supposed to be an anti-tunneling perk. So obviously there was a problem where people just kept going after one specific person, and thus DS was a thing. But the way they're trying to fix it now is to make it not so aggressive type. So now you know how survivors at the moment they can just run at the killer, pick up their friend, they get grabbed, they get DS, or they're being chased, they just go into a locker to force a DS. Like that
Hmm.
Yeah.
kind of stuff. It's just not fun, because the killer knows you have a full 60 seconds of just invincibility, like it's not fun. And I think
Yeah.
that's where they're trying to fix it. But obviously, if we're
It's
trying to make
just
it now a
hard.
mind game perk, I think it still goes back into being aggressive. Like the killer doesn't know that. Like they don't know a lot of things. But now you can be like, haha, I went to a locker, and like, are you gonna risk it, or are you gonna like
I went
just
into a
leave me?
locker with inner strength. Haha, I've
But then
completely.
what about the people who purposely just eat DS? Because I know sometimes I'll just be like, this bitch got DS, I'm gonna take it anyway, and then I'm gonna chase her down. Like, I don't think okay, personally, I don't see how this benefits in any way, right? DS technically is a perk that counters tunneling. If you're not tunneling, good for you. If you're getting slugged on the ground, good for you. Your teammates have a chance to pick you up, right? But if you're tunneling somebody and you only get to use this perk once, it's not like you get to use it every time you're hooked. You only get to use it once. So, good for you. You used it after you got chased immediately off hook, but at the same time, now you have nothing to go for yourself. So you're still gonna die regardless. And I get the whole like idea behind it being something sort of a mind game, but at that point, do you really care? Like, it definitely depends more on what kind of killer you are. But like you said, um, slugging involved. And there are people that just straight up eat it because they don't generally just don't care about it.
Hmm.
I think it's situations where you would eat a DS. Like if I've gotten like 3 hooks already and they're still at 5 gens and there's a potential for a DS, I'm gonna eat the DS to eliminate that threat later on.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like I think early on I have less, I'm just like I'm going to eat it now so you can't use that against me and like on your last hook, cuz that's where it's if I get a chance to take someone out of the game but I have to tunnel them to do so, that's where it's risky unless I know you've already used it.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, like I think early game, like if I can eat it, if I can bait someone to use their DS and show me that they have it early on, I'm just like fuck it, I'll take that chance.
Hmm.
But it
Yeah.
depends on how well you're doing and how comfortable you are with like controlling the rest of the survivors,
Yeah.
and killer
It,
dependent obviously too. Yeah,
I think it's very dependent because again, for me, I think the reason why I bring all this up, I think it's because I keep going back into that mentality state of just going against Swifts that are very just like aggressive with it. So what I mean by that is that pretty much say, you hook someone, you down someone afterwards, you hook them, and then that person that was just hooked gets unhooked, comes to go save their friend, and now you have two DSs to deal with. So now you have to be like,
Yeah.
oh, do I want to eat this all, or like something like that, or more or less. I think probably the biggest one is a 59-second timer DS, where you hook someone, you leave them, you go after someone else, and then you find the other person again, and then guess what? You down them, and then for some miracle, 59-second DS, and then pick up. Guess what? You tunneled for you. Obviously tunneled apparently because you ate a DS. Like
Yeah.
I keep going back to that mentality, and that's why I keep bringing up that specific, just how DS. Like I just don't like how it's aggressive, but again, that's a mentality I'm going into at the moment. Not really looking to just like a more of an average player base kind of DS
Yeah,
wise.
true.
That's true.
Yeah, yeah. I think the problem with DS is it's too much of a weapon, you know?
Hmm.
Like I
Well,
think I think my thoughts about DS, it sounds like a good change, but yeah, like that mind game element, it kind of sucks. But also I think I feel like your timer, well, as soon as you get unhooked, if you get downed in that time, right? Like you should just have DS until you get picked up, you know?
yeah.
Like if
Hmm.
it's a tunnel thing. I don't know, like it I don't know, situate, it's harder to control, but at the same time, I feel like the timer should just start right off you get unhooked. And if you get down in that time, if they pick you up, that's a decisive strike. That's a clear tunnel versus you know, something else that occurs later on, or like you hook someone in between and then you go after the injured person again because they didn't
I'm
they
gonna
didn't
be
heal up or
honest.
they weren't immersing properly.
I
Yeah.
agree. I feel like okay, well, okay. Of course, you're gonna have the options of like, oh yeah, well, your teammates are bad. They unhooked you in front of the killer, blah, blah, blah. But I think DS is literally fine where it is now. It's one of the only anti-tunneling perks. First of all, second of all, it's on a 60-second timer. Like people literally just time it out. Like they just wait it out. So
Yeah.
I like no matter what you do, it's one of those perks that you definitely cannot please both sides. You're just gonna have to accept the fact of the state where it is now because I feel like any other changes made to it will not make it as good at it as it is right now. It'll only make it worse, right? Because
Yeah.
as we said before, it doesn't matter if you have it where you need to complete an action, right? You're basically just being a bad survivor at that point, doing nothing while your teammates are working on gins and things like that. Is the killer chasing you? No, you're just literally just standing there, right? Or like I said, for example, even getting slugged, right? It's gonna have that same kind of effect where you're literally just not doing anything, but you do have that opportunity to get picked up and go do something else. Yeah, there are gonna be killers that are just gonna stand there. Like I don't know how to explain it. There's various playstyles of killers, but usually killers don't just stand there and look at you and wait for your DS. Usually they'll stand there for a minute, they'll look at you, realize somebody's close by, they'll go chase that person. You can get picked up, right? And then you can like go do something else. Or if they decide to still tunnel you while your DS is active, that's a clear indication of being tunneled. That's a clear use of why you need DS. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it if changing it into this kind of way that it is now has absolutely no benefit solely I want to say for the fact that because it it doesn't reward bad play but it doesn't make you a good player if that makes sense.
I think I can't remember who I was playing with, but I think I was playing with Zane as well. And I think no, I think it was just Zane, maybe Rain at one point. But there was I think it was not Zane's back when I said again. I don't remember what game this was, but I think Zane, you were with me in this game I'm about to talk about. There was a killer that was blatantly tunneling right off hook. And this person in the end game chat was saying, and you, sir, are the sole exact reason why DS exists, literally because he was telling people right off hook. And I was like, I agree with you. Like, that's the sole reason why it exists because you're tunneling. And then I'm also looking at your chat, Rain. Commander said, how do you guys feel about DS staying active during in game collapse? It's just normal DS as it is right now. It's just the
Yeah.
same. It's
But I
basically DS right now before it's nerf. So it's just slug, don't pick them up, and just go for everyone else. And then once you time out the 60 seconds, you can pick them up and put
so
them on the hook and sacrifice them.
I think I actually want to bring that up real quick because I think this is another issue I always have with DS where sometimes it just again obviously this is me going to a killer mentality rather than going to both survivor
Hmm.
and killer, but sometimes yes does feel like a second chance perk a lot of times where if you
Yeah.
make a mistake, guess what, you get a second chance because just the killer somehow got the better of you, but then you're just an idiot and you get away. So obviously it's not the case for every single moment, but for say you get caught and the endgame collapse because you're stupid, you wanted to be selfish, and then
Right.
killer gets you, they're hooked, and then you get unhooked now, and then guess what? You have a DS with the door right there, and then like
Hmm.
at that point, what can you really do? Like you just have to
Right.
let them go,
But
or else you just eat a DS and they get to go away. Like
It's
I
for
still, for
that,
me, it's a free escape, like Zach said too. It's then a free escape still as
yeah,
well.
and
So
I,
that's
and I
that
think that's
situation
where
there.
and that's why I just don't like it too, because it genuinely feels like a second chance perk where you can make a
Yeah.
mistake, and then just because, and again, even at that point, I wouldn't even call it tunneling because you're there, you got yourself in that situation during the endgame collapse, and again, this is
Hmm.
very situational, obviously, but your team gets you off, and then you only the like like doors right there. Like, are you really gonna be able to get the other person who's fully healthy down in that very small amount of time, versus the one who's already injured?
I
And then
feel
you have to eat a DS. Like,
I
And that's where NOED can come into play too as well. Sometimes
I
it's situation.
personally feel like it's very situational because yeah, I mean a person can have DS or whatever, right? Okay, imagine this. You are not in a swift, random's opening the door, somebody downs you, you get hooked, your teammate decides to unhook you, and your random decides to open the door, but your teammate unhooks you when there's a bubba face camping you, right? You both go down, you pick up the other survivor instead of the one that you just knocked down. I should talk about this more in a killer perspective, but instead of the one that was just on the hook, you pick up the one that wasn't on the hook, hook them, boom, Blood Warden's active, right? Well, at that
mhm,
point, you have time to wait out that DS and go get other people. Like there are things in the game that can counter the DS, right? But the fact that it's so situational is the sole reason why there's such I personally feel like is the sole reason why there's such a two-sided version of DS,
yeah,
because of the fact that you never know what's gonna happen. You never know if a killer's gonna tunnel you, right? But people usually bring DS because in their previous games they've consistently been getting tunneled, right? So I don't know how to explain it, but it's a type of perk where it's like I feel like you can't really be mad at it, but you also can't really be too in agreement for it either. Like it doesn't benefit anybody. It benefits you when you're getting tunneled, yes, and when killers want to play like their play style, how they play. I'm not gonna say anything else besides that. But at the same time, those killers that don't play like that, like you're not gonna get any benefit from it. It's literally just a useless perk on your side, so it's not gonna benefit you, right? You could have replaced it with something else. If you know the killer's just gonna leave you alone after you get off the hook. Like I know, for example, myself when I play killer, I don't necessarily tunnel people unless they be extremely toxic to me. And if you want to talk about toxic, I'm talking about like teabag, consistent flashlight, all that stuff. Like that's when I'll start tunneling. But in a regular match where people are just playing to play, I don't tunnel people. I feel like there's no reason. Um, Personally, because I want to get better as a killer. Um,
Mhm.
the people that I go against, DS would be useless on their part because I have no reason to pick them up. But as far as in-game collapse goes, I totally understand where everyone's coming from about having it be a second chance at in-game collapse, right? But the fact that it's not something that can be deactivated because the system doesn't know what in like when in-game collapse is. It should, right? But it doesn't know when in-game collapse is. And the fact that this person hasn't been chased the whole game, and the fact that they just get off their first hook and they have DS active, like it's not it's what am I trying to say? It's something that you couldn't predict could happen, if that makes sense. So yes, it's a second chance. It sucks, but at the same time, like you can't predict that it happened. You didn't know that this would be the outcome of your game.
yeah, and I think I see
Mm.
that's the thing too. Is that why I dislike DS a lot of times because you can't prevent it too in these very specific situations where, like, again, you're down the person, ending a class, blah blah blah, same situation, but like, how do you prevent that? You just
Yeah,
have to accept it. Like even if you played your best and that person somehow gets off on the first hook, like, what was I supposed to do? Just not go after that specific person? Like, out of
yeah,
the out of the four survivors out there. that one person had DS, and guess what? You made the mistake, obviously, because of course you didn't know he had DS. Like, why do I have to get punished for like making a good play and they made a really shitty one, you know? But
Yeah.
obviously, it just keeps coming down to very specific situations about why a lot of people support and go against DS. And I can see both sides to it, obviously, because again, I play both sides equally. I don't just
Yeah.
take one side for the other. But I also want to understand both sides about why it's loved and why it's so hated. And I get that too. Because I get
Yeah.
it. No killer likes to just eat 4 DSs
Yeah.
because the entire team played stupidly, you know? Like
Hmm.
they all just started to meme, and then guess what? That killer has to eat 4 DSs. Like because of what? Just because, the survivors made mistakes and now he has to get punished for it, or like
But then this is where like slug play comes in too. You know what I mean? Like this is why I'm like like I get it, but I feel like I feel like it should stay the way that it is now is because there are ways to counter it. You know what I mean? And like I said, from both sides, you never know how your game's gonna go. It could be useful or useless, but I feel like there's ways to counter it. But also then too is like also depends on how much you play the game. Like that skill check to hit that DS is really small, and even some of us miss that shit sometimes. So I feel
mm,
like at the same time, it's a little balance where it is, but at the same time, of course there could be things that are changed, but what could be changed? Because this way that it's being changed now, I personally do not see it being the best possible solution that it could be, if that makes sense.
It seems like
yeah.
the worst, honestly. It's gonna be
Yeah.
kind
But
of useless, honestly.
see, and again, I think that's where I wanted to bring that discussion over again to where, again, the killer doesn't know if you've done the action, you know? And I feel like that's why it'll, like, the way it's still played the yes right now, it'll still feel the exact same way. I just feel like
That's
there's going to
fair.
be zero change to it in the mentality of it, to where killer probably going to keep slugging it, or same thing for killers. If they're just going to try to eat it, they're going to eat it. Like, I feel like there's just going to be zero difference to it anymore. It's
I,
just, like,
I feel like
unless you have that new mentality to be like, maybe they have it, maybe they don't,
I don't
like
know. I feel like I'm going to ignore it. I'm not going to care if they have decisive strike because if you're just walking around and doing nothing, you're being useless for your team.
Yeah. And
mhm.
then that's why I said I don't think it's good because then it's not a problem of oh I hate this as a perk. It's going to be a problem as my teammates are literally doing nothing. And
Yeah,
I
it's
have
a
to be
waste
the
of
one to
time.
die because I'm trying to do everything and they're just hiding out because they have DS. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't make it any better. It just makes the badness go into a different sort of category if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like an
Yeah, no,
average, like the average player base. Like if you're doing solo queue survivor, that could be definitely pretty frustrating. Um,
Yeah.
I think
mhm.
from the killer perspective, though, like
The killers
historically,
love
DS.
it, but
Wait, what?
I think the killer will love it seeing you doing nothing.
Oh well, yeah. No, if you can, like, if you actually see, you actually monitor them, and you see, and maybe you've hooked someone in the other part of the map, and they don't know you have barbecue or something, and you see someone doing a gen, and you're like, oh shit, that's the injury, somehow. But anyways, I think like historically, DS is just really shitty, and like I don't know, I don't really like, I feel like it's, yeah, like at least if you're doing nothing, you're not helping the objective move faster, you're not helping yourself get out of that health state, you know? So,
Right.
like the best you can hope for is someone like running will make it, or like someone with fast heals, so you get out of that health state, you get healthy.
Or you run inner strength.
Um, yeah, but that's the thing. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Inner strength obviously is just works well with DS, but I just think DS as a whole is really shitty, especially when like you think of all the levels of security survivors have. Like, oh, you get downed, but he's gonna ignore you. Well, you have unbreakable. Oh, you're on a hook, but your survivor's coming and he's coming back to the hook, but you get the unhook before. Oh, that's break that borrowed time. You get that hit and you take the speed boost. That should be enough time where it's like if you're good at looping, they're not going to tunnel you. But if the killer, for 15 seconds, like you have 15 seconds to get to a pallet or loop, like you have something to work with, even though. So like the bad survivors will just sit there and be like, hit me, I have borrowed time. And it's like, well, I know that, like so many of those mind games, like the killer can play around. I don't mind borrowed time at all. But like DS is just that extra layer of like if you have borrowed time and DS, it's like, ugh. Like it,
I'm
it just
invincible.
carries bad survivors. I feel, and I refuse to run DS honestly. Like
I feel that.
after a while, it's boring. Like I'd rather get tunneled in solo queue like once in a blue moon, versus like running that constantly because I feel like it's a wasted perk slot. I much
It
rather
is.
have I much rather give my teammate immunity rather than like me dying. Like oh shit, I died. Like it happens. It's DBD.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I feel
But
like.
yeah, I don't
Wait,
know.
sorry. Go
Borrowed
ahead, Sam.
time fan though.
Mm.
What were you gonna say, Zay?
Oh no, you can go.
Oh, I was gonna say that I personally feel like DS shouldn't be in the game. Um, but at the same time, I also feel like, well, how do we stop like these killers from consistently tunneling people? You know what I mean? Like, I
Mhm.
I feel like BT is an acceptable thing. Like, I feel like it's more acceptable than DS because I mean, if you get downed at the hook and you're just slugged, I mean, that's on you, right? Your DS is not going to be active. The killer can come back and pick you up in a minute, put you back on the hook. Doesn't matter. But at least with BT, you kind of get that extra distance from the killer to initiate another chase. And if you
Yeah,
suck at looping killers, that's on you. Like that's your
yeah.
own personal fault for being bad at the game. So I feel like that's a little bit more acceptable. But then I started thinking, I'm like, well, if that's the case, then why don't we just get rid of BT in general and then just give? Oh, this is gonna sound crazy, but it literally just popped into my head. It's gonna sound crazy. I'm just letting you know.
Oh no.
But what if we just get rid of BT in general and gave survivors a chance for a passive BT after they're hooked? Now, I'm saying this in general. I'm not gonna put a time limit on it. Of course, I think a short time of like a passive BT should be a thing. I don't think it should be as long as DS is, obviously, but I feel like that would at least sort of disencourage tunneling a little bit. Why? Because like I said before, if this survivor we're talking about is really good at looping and the killer decides that they want to be bad and spend literally like 3 gens chasing this one survivor, finally get them hooked, and then they get off the hook. And they decide to tunnel them again. They're still wasting another 3 minutes just because this killer's good at. I mean, the survivor's good at looping, right? But if this timer was a short timer and the killer decides to go away from that person that was hooked and come back, then that person technically had some sort of chance to do what they needed to do for a little bit amount of time, right? And then they initiate another chase. The killer decided that, hey, well, I don't want to chase this person because of passive BT, so let me go chase somebody else and pressure gens or XYZ, and then go back to this person so that way I can get the down, right? That gives you time as a killer. Yeah, you probably injured somebody, you came back, got a slug, the person that you injured before is in the wrong place at the wrong time. Boom, that's a two-person down right there. You know what I mean? Like there are some benefits of, I think, having it that way, but again too there could be some negatives, but it all depends on the play style, right? At this point, DS is, in my opinion, a perk to discourage tunneling, and I feel like BT, it's more of a perk that's like, it'll allow you, if you are a good player, to survive longer. But if you're a bad player, it's gonna not allow you to survive as long, right? So it's gonna separate you in terms of like, I want to say ranked, even though I hate ranked, but it's gonna separate you in terms of ranked, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like borrowed time is like get back in there, chief. You're fine. Like
Yeah, it's like, well, you want to tunnel me? Okay, well, I'm gonna have a mint effect, obviously. My screen's gonna blur to the point where I can barely see, obviously. But if I'm good enough of a survivor that I know this map well and I know how to loop, you're gonna have a hard time to catch me. So it's better that you stop before you lose that last gen and everybody gets out, or you can decide to keep chasing me and then we all get out regardless. You know what I mean?
yeah, I feel like the passive idea, it's like it's pretty good. That yeah, the only situation I feel like borrowed time is like okay, if everyone has BT end game, there's one hook. Like literally, just take protection hits, get the unhook, and
Yeah,
BT.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
That's why I
well,
said there are
I mean, not
downsides
one
to
hook, I
it,
guess,
but
but yeah,
like I was just thinking generally of like a fresh idea. Obviously, if the game was good enough to understand when in-game collapse is active, then I would personally not make that BT a thing. That passive BT a thing during in-game collapse, because hello, like
yeah,
you're literally a killer. What else are you gonna do at in-game collapse? there's nothing for you to do. You're supposed to be killing people anyway, right?
Yeah,
So if the game
exactly.
was good enough to do that, obviously I would take away that passive BT during in-game collapse. But yeah,
Interesting ideas. I like
just
it.
yeah. I mean, I think it's definitely a step away from just looking at where DS is, because I 100% honestly just believe that DS is a perk that will never be balanced or benefit both sides, to where both sides of the player base can agree on a certain type of DS. I just can't see it happening.
Yeah, and I think that's the sad
Yeah.
reality of it. Because again, I think it comes down to not just the perk, but I think just because of a lot of things in Dead by Daylight cannot please every single person, or rather every single side. Because obviously, it always comes down to it breaks down to right, I'd say probably two groups, but obviously there can always be a third, where it's just survivors and killers, and then the rare people who have a mixture of both, like because again there are some people that play both, but I think that's what it comes down to is that you can't always please a specific group of people because then guess what, the other group of people will be mad about it or vice versa. Like same thing. Like again, we can look at buffs and nerfs. Like Freddy got nerfed. Oh no, like survivors are OP now. Like look what they did to our precious killer. Or, Unbreakable is no longer in the game. Oh, they used nerf survivors. Now the killers are going to solo again, etc. Like you're
Yeah.
not gonna please everyone. Like that's the sad reality of it. It's
Yeah.
not just DS. It's just how the community is. And again, obviously, I'm not trying to like make it seem like every person's like that because obviously, but a lot of times it'll just feel like that way too, where you're not gonna be able to please everyone, but like I guess you just have to do what you can to try your best to try to please everyone. Like you're not
Yeah.
going to succeed a lot of times, but there can be attempts, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
just think I wish TS was kind of like just for one survivor, like how it was in the past. I feel like that'd be the best way. Because then, I mean, 4DS is kind of unfair
That's
for
Yeah,
all of
true.
for
them.
real.
Because like Matt said, it's kind of this like I don't want to take 4DSs in the end, and it's just because it hurts you in the end. Because then also you gotta think that stun is a long time. 5 seconds is a lot of time wasted.
Yeah.
mhm.
And think about it, you're taking four of them. You just wasted 20 seconds of your killing.
Yeah, five
And
times four. Yeah.
exactly.
Just have fun.
Um, yeah, have fun. I mean, I feel like if it was maybe limited to like the old DS where it was just keep the timer though. The timer is good, the 60 seconds, but limit it to one survivor only so that it can like anti-tunnel that one guy and you can actually go for other people. I don't, but of course people
Like
had that.
whoever is
And
the
of course,
obsession. Like
yeah,
whoever, let's
whoever
say four
whoever the
people bring
obsession.
DS, whoever's the obsession in that game is the only one that can use it, or
But then that's
Something
just
Um,
like
kind of like
like
a
that.
wasted slot though for everyone
Yeah.
else.
So
yeah, but I
basically,
mean,
it
it
makes
should.
it
I
makes
would make it
that
more of
that's
like,
gonna get to it to being a mainly a
roll the dice.
survive with friends perk. You mainly
Yeah.
want to use it if you're in a Swift. You don't want to use it if you're in a 4-man rando lobby because it's
Hmm.
going to be really hard. You'd want to pair it up with a survivor friends. Be like,
but
hi,
that
my name's Maz. I'm playing with Rain, Ashy, and Zane. I'm the one running DS. Everyone else now knows. They're just like, okay, we're gonna bring borrowed time. We're gonna bring all this and that. We're not gonna bring DS. He's gonna be the obsession. He will he'll be able to free himself from the killer's grasp or something, and then we can alternate through our games at who gets DS and stuff. It
but
could be like that because the old DS used to be you had to wiggle in order to use it.
Oh
I,
yeah.
I feel like I think I can agree with that, but make it more of a passive thing instead of like its own perk. The only
Mm-hmm.
reason I say that is because then that just discourages the people who play solo. Like I know I don't play solo, but I've met people like through streams and stuff that just only enjoy solo. I don't know how, I don't know why, but there are people that only enjoy solos. And people, like I said before, well, I haven't said this on like stream or anything, but like there's a lobby chat for a reason for you guys to like tell people what perks you're bringing, decide all this other extra stuff, but people don't use that effectively. So I feel like if everybody brings DS, and then you have perks that make you the obsession, like object, and that person with object doesn't have DS but everybody else does, and only the obsession has
That's
is able to
true.
use the DS, and the person with object is the one that got the obsession, then everybody else is useless. You know what I mean? Like there's empty perk slots for
Does
everybody else.
object have a
And
does
also
object
the
have a difference in the way it's worded on how you
nemesis.
become a session, or is it just say, or do both DS and object say tremendously increase your
I think
chances?
it's just tremendous increase.
Yeah.
Like there's no like
Oh,
guaranteed
it could be either way. So a person with DS could still get it.
Yeah, but I'm saying in the situation that if it doesn't, then what are you gonna do? You have three teammates with wasted perk slots. If you
That's
would have just
true.
made it a passive for whoever is the obsession, then and you know, but by passive I mean you can add the wiggling thing if you want. I don't really know what happened before because I wasn't playing during that time.
Basically, DS was where you had to wiggle to like 40% in order
Okay,
to use it, but
well let's
killers
just
countered that by dropping you.
Okay, well, let's just
Yeah.
say that it's not like that then, and just have it the way it is, right? If you had it as a passive ability, maybe not 60 seconds, but let's say like 30 seconds, I don't care. But 30-second timer for the obsession only, then I mean, I think it's fair game at that point.
Mhm.
That's why I'm so much more in favor of how it is for now. Like if it's the obsession only as a passive, the killer's gonna know that you're the obsession. They're gonna know that you're gonna have the DS passive. They decide to slug you. You can get picked up. Like at that point, it doesn't matter, right?
Mhm.
You have the opportunity to get picked up from the ground. That's not the killer's fault. That's not this your fault. It's your teammates' fault, right? Your teammates are
Right.
playing not as survive as coordinated or as survivors should, let's say, right? So I think that's fair game. Like I don't see a problem with that.
Right. I see that. I can agree
It's
with
it's
that.
not something that's discouraging the killer, and it's not something that's discouraging the survivor. If anything, it's encouraging survivors to play more as a team instead of the ones being as solo as they are, if that makes sense. Or as
Mhm.
I don't want to say
Yeah.
selfish, but you know what I mean.
As well as when I want to go in to say, like, that's why we have the chat too. Well, it's got cross platform now, so it's kind of hard to communicate with the console people because they can't see what PC is saying, unfortunately.
That's true.
So, I mean, I feel like in the near future, since they did cross platform, in order to be able to fully communicate with console, they should allow console to be able to read what we're saying and as well as respond so that they can communicate with us as well,
Yeah.
so that
I
we can all talk to each other. Because, of course, like sometimes I'll run it with just Zane and I, or Rain and I, Matt and I, or Ashley and I. We'll just run twos and get two randoms. So I mean, and sometimes those two randoms could be console. I'd like to know potentially what they're running, but I can't because they can't see what I'm saying in the chat.
That's true.
So I'd like to, because I mean, it would just be nice to be able to communicate with them as well.
feel like the passive idea is like, yeah, I think it's actually a really good idea if you wanted to kind of get a unified system for like competitive and like assuming that you're focusing on like balance only changes for the game, right? I think
Right.
that's like a really good idea as having like, because those game changing perks, adrenaline, unbreakable, borrow time, DS, like those are the main three in my opinion. Um, like or main four. I can't count. But like, yeah, I think that's a great like if you get a system like that has those scenarios and make it a little bit more situational so there's more strategy introduced to the team, assuming that the survivors have full comms and everything. I think that's a good idea for like a competitive like utopia or like, but yeah, as far as like the casual game goes, like this is why, like okay, 4DS is, like it's allowed because to each their own, and they can like bring whatever they want as long as they have the unlocks and the teachables and stuff like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, no, I like the passive things you were saying about like yeah, but yeah, I think we're definitely taking a competitive approach to it, and I definitely
Yeah.
appreciate all the other random bullshit that comes with playing like solo survivor sometimes. Like it's
True.
it's it's a funny fucking game. Like when you get down to it, like it's like I've been playing for too long, but like it's a funny game. Like to be honest, it's not like it's not meant to be so serious, but at the same time I think having like not two different game modes, but like, a version for tournaments, where like there's a clear set of there's a win condition, there's a clear set of rules across the boards. So these tournaments aren't like making shit up every time where it's like, oh, yeah, you need to hook this many times to get this many points and blah blah blah. It's like, okay, well,
What if
Mhm.
that,
they had like a
that's
quick
great.
play and competitive like Overwatch?
No, 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 no. I'm not talking two
No.
different game modes. I'm saying like for tournament, like have like a utopia, like a perfect scenario balance for like competitive scene, but like still have like casual as base game, right? I don't know.
Okay, true.
So maybe like not two different game modes, but like a like create your own lobby, but kind of sort of like that, where there's more features and more like you can turn off you can turn off perks anyways, I think too, but in a custom
Sounds like
lobby.
custom lobby with
Yeah,
like extra
exactly.
steps.
So just make it more like, yeah, but you would have to do a lot of things if you wanted it to be perfect balance, like not perfect, like but near perfect balance for like it to even consider like tournament things, because it's not a very like it's not a very balanced game for sure. Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
it's a
Uh,
4v1, but also the add-ons and the perks is just too many second chances, and I don't know.
yeah. But I think we're kind of just like derailing a little bit from
Yeah.
where we're at to begin with. So I think I'll try to get us back on track here because I think we're a long time than what we said we are gonna
Oh,
initially
Yeah.
set it up at.
I
But
like this. It's
Yeah,
okay. It's okay.
but
I
It
mean,
will be
no,
interesting though.
we having fun though.
yeah,
true.
no, But obviously, I feel like not only ourselves, but probably the viewers too are gonna be like, we get it. It's like it's 6 hours long.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
might want to be
exactly.
True, we
chilling.
need something to talk about next week too.
Exactly. So going to the next one, obviously, because we only have a few more topics left before we can end it off here. But obviously, with the other changes that we've had with DS, we've also had two, I say, pretty big killer changes coming into live servers. So first one is the Blight, which I'm very certain a lot of people are very happy with this one. So for the
Yup.
Blight, they adjusted his POV. So currently, the way it is right now is live. Blight's POV is a lot shorter than every other normal killer. So it is very, very hard to actually see where stars are going, where you're going, like a lot of different things. But the way it is now, they've actually adjusted it, so now you're actually at a base killer height. So now it'll be a lot better
Ooh.
for you to be rushing, to be looping, etc., etc. So it's really good stuff.
I didn't know
Second
he
one,
was like a short killer.
yeah, it is, but because of how the
Is he,
POV is,
was he as
it's really
was
bad.
he as short as Hag? You think then?
I'd say Hag is a little bit shorter than Blight.
Oh, okay,
It's
okay.
Victor.
Because I know when I played Hag at one point when I was on console, I was like, I can't see shit. I'm tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm tiny.
Oh
But
heck.
yeah, no, this is a
Hag.
very welcome change for a lot of people who want to actually pick up Blight or people who are currently playing Blight. Like this is an extremely big change for them, so they're not just feeling like they're useless and just staring at a wall a lot of times when they're looping. Um, and then the next one is a rework of the collision detection of his power. So as far as I know of, and again, I could be completely wrong interpreting this, but a lot of times when you're actually using your power and colliding with objects, sometimes you can actually slide off of them on very certain objects, which is really stupid. So in other words,
So
instead of
what?
actually
Like show
bumping
the
into
hit?
it so yeah, pretty much instead of just bumping into it, it'll just make you slide off of it, and then your power becomes useless for like a bit. So you
Oof.
just wasted your power because it didn't
The
collide with you.
snowbanks.
I f-
Yeah.
well, I feel
So
like is that a bug?
Maybe it
uh,
depends on the
I guess
angle
it was
they hit the
I-
intentional.
object.
they reworked the collision zone, I guess is what it's called. So it's like
Yeah.
So maybe would you think like if you're gliding
should
off
work
the
better.
object, say it's a tree, could it depend on the slide off being on how you hit it and where you hit it?
Well, see, the thing is that a lot of times too, it's that you can hit it directly on, like, like, you're not even on the side of it, like, just straight up on it, and for some reason, you're still sliding off of it for some reason.
Okay.
Like,
That's
there should be zero
weird.
reason why you're sliding off. But the way to fix it now is that pretty much you're not going to be sliding off of it anymore. So a lot of times now, it'll be actually it'll be more consistent now. So now you're not just sliding off of random objects when you know you shouldn't have, or like, when you're in the middle of a chase and you're gonna hit an object, and guess what? You just slid off to a different direction than where you thought you were gonna head towards. So this is actually pretty big changes for the Blight.
I think that's good.
I
I
never knew that.
definitely like the POV change because if you watch my stream and I play Blight, you already know I can't see shit and I lose survivors every 2 seconds. Um, but I think that's definitely a change for the better. As for the other one, I mean, I would have thought that was a bug. Mainly because I know that it's something that works along the same lines as Nurse. There are some objects in the game that Nurse cannot blink through. Even though you would think she would be able to blink through, but there are some objects that she just can't for some reason. So that's why I was kind of interested when you were like, no, it's not a bug. I was like, well, Nurse works that same way, so I don't know if it should be fixed. But I kind of get it. Like with Blight, if you're trying to like, well, I mean, it's the same thing as Nurse too, right? If you're trying to go somewhere, realistically, you should be able to get where you want to go. But the fact that the fractures or the I don't know the term for it, but the things that you want to go through or you want to bounce off on is not working in your favor, then I mean that sounds more so like um a development bug kind of thing rather than this was kind of intentional, if that makes sense. Um
Yeah, that
I
makes
think it's
sense.
better that it's fixed for Blight at least because like is Blight, he kind of depends on his power to go places, and so does Nurse. But at the same time, like the Nurse things are very situational. The only things that she can't blink through is like certain things on, I think it's on the farm map, and also on I can't remember the last one,
I
but
don't
there's
think
only like two
I think on
maps.
the game you can't blink up those stairs like from the ground, can you?
Yeah. There's
You
like
can't do
only two
that.
maps that where it doesn't work, but yeah,
And
everything
like
else works for her.
Ormond
Yeah.
stairs too are bad. Just because of the rework. I think old Ormond was fine. I think it's just has to do with the rework
Yeah,
tiles.
it might be, yeah.
But yeah,
But yeah, no, those are pretty. I'd say those are pretty big changes. And then Race actually got a lot of changes actually to him,
my
bit. But
boy.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
yeah, I know, I'm excited too. But to break it down a little bit more, for Race now, he actually got a buff in his speed. So now in cloaked form, he actually has a lot faster of a speed rate. I forgot exactly what the percentage was that was increased, but to keep it in perspective, Windstorm, which is probably his strongest add-on, which allows him to be faster in cloak mode, is now his base kit. So that's kind of how we're looking at how fast he is now.
Oh no,
Um,
I thought it was like I thought it was more to the center. So like they nerfed Windstorm, but like I don't know.
well, no, no, they did. It's just like it's just the way the Windstorm is right now. The
Yeah.
live version is his base kit now. Like just to
Oh,
give an
it's
idea
that
of
is
how
gonna be his
fast he
base
is.
kit. Oh damn.
Yeah, to give an idea how
His
fast he
movement
is right
speed
now.
uncloaked.
I
Yeah,
I think he has a faster uncloak movement
it's
speed.
still like
yeah,
that felt like the old
I
Windstorm felt
tipped.
really powerful. So like I don't know if he necessarily needs that big of a buff, but
He
I don't know.
don't.
mm,
I mean, like it's good. Like I like Wraith. I enjoy playing Wraith, so I like the advantage. But at the same time, Windstorm is very powerful. So if that's true, I'd be curious to see. Yeah.
Doesn't
yeah.
Windstorm also give you that like break speed too?
No, it's
No,
just
it's
him
a
being
different one.
faster. Yeah,
Just so that's a different add-on. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, there's like a
Um,
break. There's a vault. It's all in the same one. Where
yeah.
breaking and vaulting. Yeah.
And
Okay.
then obviously, as Miles already said earlier, he actually got a decrease in his movement speed while uncloaking. So when you're uncloaking,
I
obviously
say
that's a lot slower now.
I said I can feel that
Oh,
he
so
has this
that's where it is. Okay.
increase in speed the moment he's uncloaked. Like he moves faster the moment he's uncloaked for a short amount of time.
But
Yeah.
what if he
Yeah.
uses the add-on that like makes it faster? Wouldn't that be kind of broken?
Then no, that's
So
like so that's a timing thing for when he uncloaks. Like his movement speed the moment he comes uncloaked and he stops binging to uncloak, he moves faster out of it and he catches up to you a little bit more quicker. That's what I mean.
mhm.
But he can uncloak faster, meaning that he can have a faster time to come fully uncloaked so that he can transition to that speed boost to
I
catch
feel
up to you.
like he's gonna be an unstoppable monster.
Yeah, I already get
It's,
hit
it's
from
scary.
Wakanda with him anyway. We all saw that
Wakanda.
map. We all
He
saw when
can
I was on the
literally
preschool map and he uncloaked and hit me from like all the way across the map. Like, come on now.
like he can uncloak from where
Mm.
my bed is, which is a solid like 10, 15 feet away from me, and his speed boost catches him up to me. And
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's how much
it is
faster
pretty
he
long.
is
I
now.
can.
That's how much faster he is now when he comes fully uncloaked for that speed boost.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because like decreases the movement speed when you're uncloaking, but you still get that rush, like as this like
You get a
spirit coming
fast,
to the phase,
a
like you still have
faster,
that boost. Yeah, you
much
still
faster.
zoom like once you like actually uncloak. Yeah,
Like I
Yeah,
think I played
well,
one
honestly, again,
race for PTB and felt
yeah,
that, and it was like oof.
I mean, again, we just have to look more into how it's gonna hit live because, again, keep in mind too, a lot of people didn't get to actually play as a Blight or Race, mainly because everyone's really focused on the Trickster. Obviously, Miles and I we went up against one random nurse that one game for some reason on
Fucking
PTB, just
goddamn
because I guess they
nerds.
hated us. I don't know, but
That's fucking
back on track
stupid.
though, like.
Why the
Uh,
fuck are you
the,
coming to PTB with a fucking nurse?
but to
I
keep
was
in
like,
mind too, obviously we just have to keep in mind how it's gonna hit live and how we can actually see how big of a change it actually is going to be because his windstorm add-ons did get a nerf because of the pretty much it being a base kit. It's now been reduced a little bit now to how fast it can be. Again, I don't know the actual numbers about how slow it is now, but it's just not as fast as it is now at live.
yeah. DBG
And
doesn't do actual numbers; it's just moderately and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah, so that's pretty much it for his buffs and nerfs for race. So not much to it, but could be pretty big changes. Could also just be like whatever, you know. But keep in mind too, I feel like race is a very add-on dependent killer, so I feel like that's why he really needed the
mhm.
buff in terms of it.
Mm.
Add on and
So
specific perks too.
I feel
yeah, so
like
I think
they
that's it.
added that because they wanted him to be a little bit closer to survivors, I guess, when he uncloaks, instead of just like
Hmm.
uncloaking from like halfway across from like a hallway and still catching him. I don't know. It just seems it's a weird change to make to the increased movement speed while uncloaking. That's the only real reason I can see why they would want to do that is just so that he's closer to survivors instead of uncloaking from like a far
Well,
distance.
True.
I
But
would
he
also
still
say
has
map pressure.
I mean, that's true, but he still has the speed boost after uncloaking, right?
I think they reduced it though. I think that's the kind of what we're looking at right now.
Okay, that makes sense then. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Then why they would do that? Because if they
So
reduce the speed, then he
yeah,
has to be closer.
Yeah,
yeah, pretty
you
much.
have to be
So
like right next to him
Yeah.
or
yeah, basically.
survivor.
That's kind of where it falls off a bit, where it's like a buff. It's also kind of a nerf, you know, like what he gets is pretty much more map pressure, being able to catch those survivors a lot quicker. But
Yeah,
obviously, once he gets to those survivors, if he's not careful enough, like that, you know, uncloaking isn't probably gonna just fuck him up a little bit more if he's not too careful. So that's kind of where the downside comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, no. So I don't know. Personally, I think race is gonna be hopefully a little bit more viable now instead of just feeling like a killer you can just bully or something like that, or
it's
it
more
feels like
fun.
he's a
I
more.
feel like he's
But
been
I feel
like
like you still can.
killers.
Like when he's
It,
uncloaking, if you're doing it by a pallet and someone smacks you and then uses that new speed boost perk when you get
Oh
smacked
yeah,
with a pallet, like you're not gonna find them.
That's
They're just
true.
gone.
Cloak back, speed up, gotta catch
Oh,
up.
true,
Uh,
true. Speed boost.
mhm.
He's gonna be like, okay, 150% for 4 seconds. I'm gonna go invisible, break, real quick, and then zzz,
Zoom.
be
I'm excited to
NASCAR
try
on
all
the
of
map.
these things.
Yeah. So and finally, what's the final changes that we're going into? The final topics of this podcast. And again, probably thank you to everyone who's joined in so far, who's watched from any other perspective so far. Genuinely, really like you guys to just join in, having discussions with us. But final one, I think these are pretty two weird ones that to bring up, but still pretty welcome ones. The new colorblind mode change that they added to Dead by Daylight, and as well the chat filter one, which probably not too welcome if I want to be fairly honest. But uh, colorblind mode, pretty simple stuff. You know, for all the people that are colorblind, this is a mode for them to know where it can actually be very helpful for them in terms of seeing how they effectively play the game now. So it's a really nice change, and again, personally, I can't really give much of a detail to it, but I know a lot of people who are colorblind are going to be really happy for the change. It's definitely going to
All
be really
my
helpful.
friends are gonna be
I'm
pissed
just
Me too.
angry because of the
if
fact
they
that they
can do that.
decide to add colorblind mode when they actually give a killer some color. Like, you see them yellow jackets, you're gonna know who it is. I'm like, hello. This should have been added a long time ago. What are they doing?
Hello.
I'm so
Ray's gonna
angry.
be like, hello.
I'm glad it was added, but it should have been added a long time ago.
yeah.
and then chat filter is pretty simple stuff too as well. Kind of just how a lot of games have it, where very specific phrases are just now kind of blocked out. Uh, Again, I don't know if it's supposed to be a glitch because we kind of talked about it, Moz and I. But in PTB, they said that there was a way to disable it, but there wasn't. So I'm hoping that was a bug because I get it. Like a lot of people do not care to be like cussed out and all that kind of stuff. But obviously, there's a lot of other people that do not want to be given a racial slur every game after whatever
True.
happened. So it's a
That's
welcome
true.
change, but obviously, just like it's very dependent if we can turn off or on, because I know, like, again, it's very dependent. But no, I think it's a pretty good change. I think this is really nice to actually help keep the community, I guess, a little bit more healthy. But obviously, it's not going to change like how people speak to one another.
I think
It
it's
doesn't matter.
healthy for survivors, but for the killer, he's just gonna turn the chats off and be toxic every game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like okay. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm glad they added it because nobody needs to know what people be saying that's disrespectful. But at the same time, you're gonna know what people are being disrespectful about because like it's a filter, so you know
True.
when people are gonna be disrespectful because it's gonna blur like everything out. But I mean, I don't know. It feels better not to like see what they're saying, but at the same time, I know if I see it, my brain in particular is gonna be like, "What is that word? What did they say?" You know what I
Right.
mean?
True.
So I'm gonna
Yeah.
want to know what they said anyway,
I'm gonna
which
be
kind of
like, "What'd you
sucks.
call me?"
It's just
Yeah,
that on Overwatch, when you start a new account and it filters the words, I'm like, what did you call me?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like time to
What'd
report.
you call me? You punk ass bitch.
I don't think
Smash
it's
that report button.
I don't think it's useless, but it's
And
definitely
plus, I'm
like
gonna miss Ray going, "Oh, that's a fat report."
yeah,
True.
true. I mean, I'll report
When
regardless.
Rain and I ran into that death slinger that one time, Rain's like, "Oh, that's a report, sir."
He wasn't even shit talking me. He was shit talking someone else. I was like, girl,
Shit
why
talking
you being
all of
so
us, bro.
mean?
What if you just write a full sentence with a bunch of asterisks?
Well, they're actually
True, true.
Anyways, no.
yeah,
Thank you.
What'd you call me?
yeah.
Asterisk.
The blur is actually a
Asterisk,
pound,
asterisk, asterisk.
like a pound symbol, so that's how they blur them out.
Oh, okay. Pound. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be shift 3.
Whale.
Yeah, well,
I'm
Time to
glad
troll.
that the color blind option's
Same.
coming and the
yeah.
filter.
I love it. Like Mus said, my teammate's gonna be pink.
Yes.
We love that.
If we can do that, if they let us do that, unless like the color blind is for like everything around you, like in the game.
I have not tried it out.
But yeah, no, I think that's pretty much all we had to really go over. Like there was some other stuff obviously, but these are more kind of like little bug fixes and everything that we really don't have to go over that people are kind of
Yeah.
aware of after playing the game for too long. So yeah, no,
That's
I think that's
true.
pretty much all we had to really discuss in terms of the topic. So yeah, this was a
The thing
really long
also about
session.
that chat feature is it's gonna blur out weird. It's gonna blur out stuff that you're like, what? That's not. I mean, why is that blurred? That's not a bad word.
Uh,
Certain words are gonna be blurred out. That I think when I was typing in the in-game chat in PTP, it was blurred. I was like, what? I didn't like say fuck or anything in the chat. I didn't call anyone a name. I was just saying something that was kind of funny that I feel like everyone would laugh at. But nope, blurred.
Weird.
Like I don't think I think
Weird.
I think I tried to say finger or something and it blurred out finger.
What?
I was like, what?
oh
Because I know
yeah,
there,
I tried to say I started to type in Twitter too, and I guess I also censored that. And I'm trying to remember why it was
yeah, I'm
trying to.
like, what is this Wizard 101 where they blur out every little thing? Like, what's going on here?
No
Because
advertising in my
you can't,
chat.
because I know you can't say finger, because I know you can't say finger in Wiz
You
101.
can't
If
say
you don't,
finger.
yeah, if you don't have a certain if you don't have it set to where you're 18 plus and you want to read the chat in your like settings on your profile, it won't let you say finger.
Girl,
That's
Whale.
what?
weird.
Wow.
I can only imagine why, and I'm done talking about it.
Because then I'm like, because sometimes I'll be like, oops, I just fat fingered that. Oh nope, can't say finger.
Oh no.
I don't even think I can say fat either.
True.
That's when you say chunk. That
Chonk.
bitch got some chonk.
I just
Chomp.
chomp tap
Chongus.
that.
Chongus.
Where you going with all that chunk?
True. What you
Big
gonna do with all that chonk?
All
all
that
that
chonk
cheese
is
and
that
all
that
that.
trunk.
Hey y'all.
Chunk?
Inside that trunk.
Yeah, inside that trunk.
Chalk in the trunk. Oh my
Yo,
god.
someone make a remix, please.
Oh, fricka,
We
fricka,
gotta
what
hit up
up?
B-Max that made the Pudgy remix.
Oh
True.
no.
How you feeling?
How you feeling?
All
Ugh.
right.
All right,
I
y'all.
do that.
Well,
We're
I think
devolving into chaos.
yeah.
True, true.
Don't
Well,
worry, we're having fun.
I like to mention to all the chats as we get ready to wrap up that if you enjoyed the podcast, we're gonna be doing this every Sunday around 8 p.m. EST. And if you can't catch us, that's totally fine. It'll be live on all the links shown on the screen.
We'll
If
try to make it work.
yeah, Maz will try to make it work. Because his internet goes
If
ZZ.
if I have to do an Ethernet every Sunday, I will do it.
True. But if you can't make it and still like to discuss some things, we have a Reddit that we actually just opened. So if you want to go ahead and join and talk about some of the stuff that we talked about today, or like some of the stuff that we'll be talking about in future weeks, feel free to join that. And we're gonna be posting topics. We can post polls. You guys can comment on things that you think that we might not have said already. But yeah.
So that's pretty much it. So I've already sent a link in my chat, and hopefully Ray and Matt did the exact same for them. There should be links just right
Yes.
there for you to join in. So it's open for anyone. Obviously, you would have to more than likely make a Reddit account, but if you just want to be, uh, you know, want to be lurking without an account, then you're also more be welcome to. It's open for everyone to join in and see discussion or join in on discussion. So it's up for everyone. But I think that'll be it for each and every one of us. It's extremely late for, yeah, all of us, and I'm sure it's late for a lot of people viewing
What do
at
you mean
home.
it's 8
Girl.
Prime
As I said,
time,
late.
baby.
Ashley's
That's
like,
only-
Ashley's like, I just woke up, bitch.
It's only 11 p.m. Zane. This is prime gamer hours.
For you, yeah.
Wow.
It's
But thank
9:17
you,
for me.
everybody.
Yes.
Not gonna lie, I woke up super early today because I got like 4 hours of sleep,
Same.
but I'm probably gonna do some more DVD after this, so fuck it.
It is
Understandable.
what it is.
But
I
yeah,
may need
thank
some
you
food
everyone
though.
for coming out for today,
Thank
and
you,
hopefully we
everyone.
could see all of you again next week. So
Next
yeah.
week,
True.
8 p.m.
Next
Let's
week.
go.
Veggie
Definitely.
hype.
Veggie hype.
Thank you guys.